What's up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Yeah, this is the Collegiate Battleground Association, and yeah, I wasn't expecting to do the intro. I thought you were gonna do it.
I wasn't either, but right before we went live, guys, my phone rang. I panicked. I stood up to shut the door so you guys couldn't hear my phone ringing, and now obviously we're scrambling in the band. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Welcome to Collegiate League. I'm Clover. He's Imperium, and we're here to bring you guys some intense PUBG action this evening. But Imperium, how are you this evening? It is very early for you this morning.
It's a little bit late, but you know what? Casting has no set time, right? Day, night, morning, evening, doesn't matter. And to be fair, and I've said this to you already, like I'm like super excited and a little bit nervous to be casting with you. It's something that I've wanted to do for quite a while. So to be doing it on the Collegiate League is also even kind of, in my opinion, just a little bit more special because this kind of PUBG mobile action is just really exciting to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think you and I have been talking about casting together for probably almost a year now, and so it's been really a project made in heaven. I feel like that we finally get to have a chance to cast together. But I mean, collegiate, this is fun. This is going to be a nice, chill evening of games. We've got some fantastic guys and gals that will be participating this evening, and a lot of returning faces from teams that have been playing from season to season. Now, obviously, we're a couple of games, in through the leaderboard already, yeah. So we're going to see if any teams can maybe start to close the gap this week that have fallen behind. Additionally, if Cordelia or North Carolina can continue to hold their lead.
Yeah, and it's the biggest thing that's kind of set the teams apart in the top of the standings has really been the overall consistency from some of the teams. Of course, you got to put Concordia in there. They've had 0 bad games. Every single one of those 8 games they played have been well above average. They've gotten 4 chicken dinners. It's insane. Their point difference is 41 ahead of second place. Like that cushion, it's not even a cushion. It's a double king size mattress. That's the gap they have over second place. But when you go down to like third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, you start to see that kind of they're able to get the good results, but the not so good results are like 0 and 1 point games, and that's kind of what's lacking them climbing up the standings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, starting off with such a deficit, as you said, it can be really difficult for some teams, especially when they get to that mental headspace of needing to chase as opposed to fighting. And that can sometimes make teams that would otherwise feel pretty comfortable slip just a bit. And that's something that you really hate to see.
One bad result and you have that one bad game, it's not going to help you. But either way, the first Miramar game, we do see with a nice, easy mid playing path, it's going to allow these teams to really kind of get to where they want to go and land where they want to land.
Yeah, this really puts just about everything into play. I mean, unless somebody really wants to go to La Cabrera or Torre, which I really shouldn't see any of these teams kind of go for that far of a stretch, this is going to make everything pretty easy. We can already see a handful of teams starting to bunch up in both the Monte Nuevo and Los Leones areas, but should have plenty of breathing room to continue out that looting. The big thing, of course, is going to be where that first phase pops. And I say that really even up to phase 2, because as we know, Miramar, we get those intense, hard shifts sometimes on that second phase. So depending on where the circle goes, we'll start to see those teams center up pretty quickly. But right now, my eyes are kind of on El Pozo. It looks like we've got a handful of teams that are really vying for that city spot. And oh.
Yeah, so UBC, they're kind of landing on the outskirts of Los Leones, and I think that's pretty good. But of course, we see Concordia, they're going to be in the heart of Los Leones. In my opinion, it's not really going to be too big of an issue for them, considering where they are. They can afford to take those risks. They can afford to really take those fights early on. And if they go out, if they do finally have that bad game, that cushion is still going to pay off for them.
And, really for some of these teams too, taking these early fights could be the thing that they need, right? To kind of fight that cushion, get themselves some early points early on in the leaderboard, try to clinch that lead. Because they've got a 40-point lead today, but all it takes is one other team finding that ability to pop off, and maybe Concordia having 1 or 2 bad games. They could close or lose that gap pretty early on. Now we see here Florizona State, which I think is the best way to address the fact that you've got Florida and Arizona players on one team, but fighting El Pozo here for SAU. Now, SAU was a team that I really enjoyed watching last season, but with that, I mean, there is some interesting competition here, and so they're going to have a little bit of breathing room for here. I think It's probably going to be, I think, maybe the biggest. Yeah, thank you. Let the Chud. I think it's going to be the hardest person to maybe have to get out of this situation. Should be able to join these buildings relatively easy and unscathed, but let's see. He's got good gear. He should be pretty healthy here.
And, you know, the thing that both of these teams have to think about is we saw the phase on circle pop up and it went over towards the essentially northeast. So for these two teams, it's going to be imperative that they do look to start their rotation into the circle relatively early, or they actually leave it until maybe phase 2 pops up. For SAU, it's not going to be too hard because they can backtrack on the western side of El Pozo, make their way up towards the northern side through Le Cabriere, and they're going to be into the circle relatively quickly. So it shouldn't be too hard for them to push their way into this phase 1/phase 2.
Yeah, in fact, it looks like all of our contested teams right now are already starting to put the gap in. So we've got our Chumacera team starting to pull back away, as well as our El Pozo teams. Florazone is going to go ahead and get those vehicles pulled to the eastern side of El Pozo, get themselves an opportunity again. But we can already see early rotation is already coming to a little bit of content as Iceman and Crop taking a couple shots at Oblivion the Ace, SA Kid, and Crew as they've continued to drive on. But this is an area of safety. The thing, though, about where we're seeing these teams put down right here in this kind of Picado area right now, we're seeing even as rotations come back in, is that this area that I guess everybody else is kind of driven onto is going to be the more playable spots. So the places that we saw that early fighting on just a moment ago, that's the more center part of the zone, the likelihood of where the circle could potentially end up. So with these teams right now holding on the edge, taking almost too much time to loot, right? We're at 4.5 minutes and we still have teams that haven't started that rotation. And that's where things can get a little bit tricky because you can just see how few areas there are to rotate out down to the south that really could easily be gatekept by just a handful of teams. So that's kind of what I'm looking for with this first phase.
I totally agree with you, and that's why I love the fact that North Carolina haven't rested on their laurels of landing in that Picado area. They've recognized that they do need to move in relatively early to get into that high ground, somewhat central phase 1 position so they can scout, they can rest a little bit easier, and then, of course, hopefully gain a firmer control as the circles close on and catch teams out in Midwest. Talk about being caught out, and we get caught out by SC.
Ooh, I really like this placement here as well from Alabama. You can see C&B is trying to get some shots out, but already from up the hill, Delta's going to spot them out, and Alabama eliminated in the blink of an eye. And already, Midwest is not letting up on this at all. They're continuing out those shots on teams that are continuing rotating by. We see Colsey and Delta now last 2 up, so they have lost Gribbles, unfortunately. They haven't lost the motivation to keep fighting. Of course, as I say that, SC Pluis is actually going to land a beautiful headshot here onto Delta, knock him back down. Picks up the flush as well, but UC driving through this is going to put a little bit of a wrench in this plan. That's going to give Colsey a little bit of a breather as well. As you can see, not 1, 2, but 3 players of UC fall here. Pluis looking for that vehicle explosion. Can he get a headshot? It might be enough to get a full squad wipe here at a frag. All he finds it. 6 kills for Southeastern, and look, they've still got all 4 players up.
Southeastern just got gifted those kills in the palm of their hands, and they're looking for more. They're looking to grab that final blow. But either way, you have Midwest calls. He's maybe looking to third parties a little bit more. We'll have to wait and see, as he's the last remaining player of his Midwest team alive in this game 1. It's going to be a little bit harder for him because he's got a decent way to go, and I expect that if he doesn't play it super, oh my god.
This is what we talked about with some of these teams right now, taking these similar rotations, potential for gatekeeping. They were a little late coming into the zone, and you see Concordia is going to have a very close call here with UBC. And Shabs is going to be able to recover that back in the Murado, and miraculously, neither team continuing this engagement. You can see Sneak Attack's got eyes. It looks like he actually is taking shots now with the Mini 14. 8X is out, but Murado's going to continue driving on. Looks like struggling just a bit to get some damage in this.
I do initially like that rotation from UBC, but I feel like it's a little bit disconnected, right, in the sense of, like, you know, they're able to kind of move around, but if you're not too close together on that rotation with those vehicles, it spells trouble because you're not able to really, you know, it's a lot easier to get caught out on those rotations by the likes of Concordia, by the likes of Sneak Attack, but they're going to survive for now.
I can see as well Rochester, who's had their nice placement up in these hills. For the most part, have really only had to contest Ontario down to their south, but NC State wrapped back around and is trying to fight for this position. We've got teams really trying to get as center as possible, because if this circle centers up on Al-Zahar, which oftentimes we will see it do, this road, this dip is a potential hotspot to play for some of these teams. But that said, up to the north, still plenty open and a lot of opportunities for teams to potentially even wrap back around onto Rochester as well.
For Rochester, the most important thing is that they don't get tunnel vision. It's great that they're putting those pressurized shots onto the teams around them, but they can't get away from the fact that right now they hold the center of the circle. So as phase 2, phase 3 pops up, teams are going to wrap closer around them. Yes, they have the high ground, but it is relatively open with not too many dips to play around, and you're already looking at teams converging near their side. And you know, I talked about the rotations that were going to come out from the teams in El Pozo. That's exactly what has happened. Is a lot of the shot has helped his St. Ambrose team to get onto the northern side of this phase 1.
And phase 1 comes to a close. We've got that phase 2 wrap, and it is going to take a harder shift back down south to Al-Zahar. So this placement that we've seen multiple teams try to fight for is going to kind of come to fruition. And as I say that, we actually have UCF, Central Florida, rotating right through the middle of this. You can see Span Cargo a little bit of trouble here. Pseudo Void taking some shots right now at their vehicles, but it looks like for right now, somehow Central Florida is pulling off this rotation without being punished too hard. Of course, as I say that, they're driving right into Ontario.
I'm all for the quick reaction to that circle shift, but you also got to recognize that you would perch yourself in the middle of phase 1, so that rotation on that phase 2 shift has to be a little bit more calculated. Yeah, you got away with that, but god damn it, any of a different situation, 3 or 4 more teams around you, that could have spelt the end for them.
You know, when you come from such a far distance, and again, I mean, we're now 10 minutes in and we're still seeing teams continue their first initial rotation into the zone. You're coming in without that extra information. You haven't been able to scout. You haven't been able to kind of get an idea of where the other teams are in the area. And so we're getting a bit of blind crashes, blind rotations, and big close calls between some of these teams that are still remaining right now. As you take a quick overhead view, you can see most teams are still taken the chance that it's going to go north of the road. And so Colsey actually in a really nice situation. Now, Colsey rotated in behind LSU, and somehow miraculously HD Beast and Penguin did not take them out. But we can see right now, I think they're a little bit interested in his compound here, so they've still got to be quite careful. If anything, UCF off to the south lead might be a little bit of help for Colsey to try and lie low in this position.
And for LSU, it would be more recommended for them to go into a compound because, getting on the high ground, either the north or south side of Al-Zahar would be quite valuable because you're gathering information. When you only have 2 players up, we know in Miramar having less bodies available allows you to get more easily punished inside the open areas of this Miramar. But Rochester are now looking for a fight on the SC. The shots are going to come out. Nice by Hershey.
Hershey taking down Pluis is huge. You can see Pluis was able to get that flush off for Croft first, but you talked earlier about tunnel vision for some of these teams. It looks like, at least for right now, Rochester is able to avoid that by continuing to hold their own here. And that beamed in the head right there as he takes down Iceman PUBG. God, Southeastern is looking great. This might be that team we talked about could really pop off today and do something on the leaderboard.
Oh my god, and then Hershey gets spot out as well. Rochester suddenly down to just 1 player with multiple teams around him. You also have Pseudo Void, the last remaining player, is going to be put under pressure on another area of the map. He's going to find himself down, and out as Rochester lose their grip, lose their stranglehold, and are taken out of this game 1.
Well, this is great, but look, they've got no time to relax now. St. Ambrose is using this as the prime opportunity to go ahead and push the fight here. You can see even down to the south, Florizona's got a couple of shots into this fight as well. In fact, if anything, it's going to hurt a lot of the Chad, as you can see now, down to 28 HP. So I think for right now, SC realizes, hey, we've got people right on the ridge. We've got people out to our south taking shots. We can't overextend past this compound too far. Let's see where the circle goes, see what we've got to work with, and move from there. And look at this, another hard shift back to the southeast towards Al-Zahar. So all three of these teams are going to have to fix up this fight pretty quickly and start focusing on how they want to get to the zone. Oh.
And Southeastern, they need to play this very carefully, because if they look to disengage and head towards the circle, they are going to get punished by SAU. So they need to take this fight. And look, they've got 9 kills already, so it's clear that they're not afraid to take a fight. But they have to do it now, because it's going to be closing in the next 25 seconds. This is where the blue zone really starts to tick down on your health. You're not going to get as much information. So they need to try and find the spot. And indeed they do. Beams goes on to King Nando.
I mean, Beams is just so nasty with the bolty, something I've always really admired watching from him. But we can see right now, SAU still trying to work this high ground as Pluis is going to push back out. So we've got a double trade here for SC. 2 players up for both these teams. Rez trying to come out for SAU, but Pluis, who is Rezzed himself, is going to go ahead and get some throwables into that smoke, try to do some damage here. He's actually going to get one more knock on Dens. He's just got 2 to focus on, but unfortunately his health was so low. Lod's going to take him down, but it's traded once again, and Beams now the last one still up for Southeastern. Is going to survive this fight, but he's got to play this smart here on these reses. Or of course, no, I say that, King Nando, excuse me, is still alive, but he's going to spot him out here. Nando was not looking in the right direction, and now Beams can focus on those reses, because it looks like Florizona has pulled back off and is now focusing on getting to the zone.
Oh, it does make me think how he did not hear those footsteps coming out from Beams, because Beams was just on that like a hot potato. As Midwest are going to be on the western edge of this circle, overlooking a couple of teams as they look to try and fight their way in. Colsey is holding on for dear life in this game, looking pretty good as of right now. And then the teams down the south of Al-Azhar, it really honestly, like, even though they have a Span Cargo knocked down, Central Florida, in my eyes, have really a great position inside this circle.
I mean, this is a really great high ground to play from. You've got good access onto the Al-Zahar Bowl. They just need to be a little bit careful of the positioning for LSU out to the rest. Now, additionally from that, I want to give credit to Colsey, because Colsey did take some fire onto Florizona as they were getting that rotation passed. In fact, he's actually kind of kept the pressure onto Mellow Panda, who's been keeping an eye on that compound, trying to figure out exactly how many people were over there. All of Florizona was going to survive, but you can see Panda is still keeping an eye on here, and already shots back out from Colsey once again. So he might be playing solo, but he's not afraid to try and get some more kills, which I really love seeing from him right now.
Well, yeah, if you can make an opponent think that you're more than one person inside the building, they're not going to take that chance, especially if it's just that one player going for those shots. So absolutely fantastic play coming out from Colsey. But the next circle is about to phase up Clover, and it goes towards Al-Azhar. Is it going to be a city finish? Is it going to be an urban ending in this game 1 of week 3 of the CBA?
I mean, you're very true there. I mean, there's a big potential this could stay Al-Zahar, but if Central Florida holds that high ground, it takes another shift to the south. That could be a great position for them to play from. Meanwhile, we can take a look over here to the north. North Carolina, kind of on a little bit of a tangent of their own. We see they've got a couple players out to the north. They are taking shots on. They're doing a fantastic job of gatekeeping. And right now, there's not too many threats. You do have UBC out to their southeast, so they need to be a little bit worried about. But Winlow as well, anchored out just to the west, keeping an eye on Al-Zahar, taking shots down. Looks like SA dude for Ontario.
Winlow's doing a great job of just not over-peaking, taking a couple of shots, suppressing a couple of teams, and allowing the rest of his side to help close out the squad. Right, Norwich go down. The edge of circle will, on the northeastern side, go over to NC. But now, looking down on the southern side, Concordia haven't really had to do much in this game so far. They haven't really had to move too much. But the thing is, have they left it a little bit too late to move in, right? Have they allowed too many other teams gather around them too much? And do they have that lack of information, which is going to hurt them coming into phase 5, phase 6?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit interesting, right? As you say, Concordia right now is sitting on 0 kills. They've kind of taken the slow passive route, right? They've got plenty of really great place to play from, but maybe perhaps even with the lead that they have right now, they're like, you know what, we don't need to overextend right now. We're not in a necessary needing to chase kills. Let's just stay up, try to get at least to the late game. We can focus on getting our kills and our points from, placement there at the end, especially when they figure out like, we kind of talked about a moment ago, is this going to go Al Zahar? Is this going to be an urban city finish, which is an entirely different style of play? Or are we going to hard shift back to the mountains and these teams in a good position? So smart to not give up that place that they've got right now. It's a good position of safety, and they've got that information. You can see right now, Morn's really locked into UBC's whereabouts. So I think when we see this next circle shift, we'll probably start to see perhaps that more aggression coming out from Concordia.
And that rotation from UBC was, of course, a tiny bit risky, but because they'd been on the eastern side of this map for quite a while, they had gathered the information that clean four-man rotation up into the high ground hills overlooking Al Azhar was really well executed. And I think that Concordia have given that position over to UBC. And UBC, if they play it in the palm of their hand, they're going to be able to punish Concordia on the next circle shift. We do still have 3 teams in the Al Azhar area. That is something that we do have to consider on this next shift.
Yeah, I mean, Central Florida, pushed down into the city or took those southern buildings in Al Zahar, and that's allowed UBC to backfill that position. But you can see as well, on the opposite side of that, Colsey still alive, did leave his compound. He's taken that high ground on top of Al Zahar that we've seen a couple of teams in this area. North Carolina, NCSU took shots over there. They cleared this area out. And so Colsey was also able to kind of push in and find himself some safety in that as well. 9 teams, 29 players alive. We're just coming to the conclusion of phase 4, which means that teams are going to have to be a little more mindful of where they go. But look at this circle shift. UBC still in a beautiful area. Al Zahar's in the circle, but this is not great for Concordia.
It's not great for Concordia. Yeah, they can play around that low ground area, but they are dead in the open in British Columbia with few have them in their sightlines. Now, British Columbia, they can't be a bit too tunnel vision. They have to, of course, be controlling, because if they don't control the other teams around them, they're going to allow the likes of, UC Berkeley, who's on the eastern side, get in towards their favor, along with the 2-man team of Louisiana State, to possibly punish and get a little bit of a third party. Either way, for these 3 teams on the southern side of this phase 5, it's going to be incredibly tricky.
I mean, LSU might be sitting on 0 kills, but these are 2 players that you don't want to discount. Big Penguin and HT Beast. They've played together for quite a long time. They're very comfortable. Their mechanics are actually pretty insane when they put the effort in. So there's a good potential for them to continue helping this gatekeep as well for UBC. It looks like they're still out of sight from BC, but you can hear bullets kind of traveling anyway. So we've got a 3-way fight between these 3 teams, and that's also allowed Cal State to, rotate kind of almost for free into Al Zahar. So just about all the teams inside now except for these 3, and it looks like Concordia is going to go ahead and send 2. Flashy and Morns try to get as close as they can to Few down to 27 HP. The push is coming from Concordia, so those vehicles coming in clutch right now. But the big thing, again, we need to talk about is LSU's presence in this.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very tricky. It was a great 2-2 push up the hill from the side of Concordia. They've, at least for now, survived without anybody going down. Sneak attack did take a little bit of damage, but for now, he's looking good with his vest down to half health. Playing on such a harsh, elevated area, it's actually at a tiny bit of a disadvantage being on the high ground, because you peak more of a body looking down, which means you're a bit more exposed. So it is really so imperative that UBC really are careful on how they peek over onto the members of Concordia.
Oh, and Cruzy peeking well. He takes down Morns. That's 2 players now he's gotten out of Concordia. Concordia left 1 player behind to play anchor, try to give the rest of their man a little bit of an advantage onto this rotation. Oh no, Cruzy falling off the mound is going to get knocked out. His teammate's not in any position to do a damn thing about this. You can see him actually falling right on top of Morns' body. And so now Few, and the rest of UBC needing to be a little bit careful. Concordia's rotated back away from them, but you can see LSU was getting just a little bit overzealous with that push. And now as that circle shifts again, UBC still has this high ground in, and you know what? They would be fools not to continue playing this position. The question, of course, comes, what's Concordia going to do, and what are the rest of the teams in this city going to continue to vie for as they found themselves inside the zone, but you can see just how close it is.
North Carolina on the northeast side of this Al Azhar city have a 2-2 split across those warehouses and buildings, which is looking pretty good. And if I was UBC, personally, I would actually make your way down the hill and go into El Azhar. I think you've done what you needed to do, which is gotten 2 kills onto Concordia. Just disengage away, because going downhill, if the circle on the next phase does continue to go towards the city area, you're going to be a sitting duck. But now Sneak Attacks looks to quack his way up the hill towards the members of UBC.
Oh, and Sneak Attack, you know, living up to his namesake here, sneaking, waiting for the right moment to attack for UBC. And right as they turn back, they're actually healing from this fight. Sneak Attack's able to get one, just a little bit of damage there into Shads, but hasn't been able to find the flush. Instead, we can actually see Flashy is actually going to get Shads back down, and now looking for that angle to try to take that last player up. Concordia with only 2 players could really play from this position strongly well, but Flashy's actually going to fall here. And Sneak Attack, the last hope here, but just can't get an angle on it. It's going to get a couple more bullets and a few damage. Can't find the knock, but he's just going to boost one more time. UBC is going to take this opportunity to try to get a res and get their numbers back up. I think Sneak Attack doing the same here.
If I was Sneak Attack, I would have gone for the push, because even though the revive would have been executed, that revive player, minimum health, clean kill, would have given the time for him to reposition on this fight. But I get why he got the revive on the Flashy. It's the last 2 remaining players of Concordia as the fight will continue on down on the southern side of the circle. Sneak Attack down to 12 health, and another Flashy play on the British Columbia.
I mean, you know, Concordia's got to be frustrated coming into this fight with 0 kills, and any flushes they can get would be huge. As we see, they're going to take out all of BC, pick up 3 now, and they've got the high ground to contest with for all of the teams back down below. Right now, we're a little bit more preoccupied with one another. You've got Berkeley shooting into teams, Cal, everybody's taking shots here. In fact, Colsey, once again, still playing the aggressor here.
This reminds me of a nice casual hot drop into one of the cities of Miramar at the start of these games, but so you're gonna have to really channel that kind of energy into the final moments of this game. Is down go Midwest, taken down by Oogie Boogie.
You know, Colsey really tried with that Molotov. Unfortunately, it hit just the side of the wall, bounced back onto him, and it kind of pushed him into the corner to avoid his own Molotov's damage, which made it easy for UCF to find the angle, get that flush here. We can see right now Central Florida sitting on 2 kills and trying to gatekeep all these teams up to the northwest. They do have a compound to play from here, but, you know, you've got one building on this side of the road. They're going to have to cross a lot of open area. You've got North Carolina State University on the other side of the road, and then 2 teams down to the south, you know, not even including Concordia, that once again still has that high ground to play from.
Yeah, UC Berkeley still have that full squad up, but the thing is, like, have they been proactive enough? Have they been controlling enough? Will they be controlling enough, or will they get caught napping? Because you got to understand, there's going to be 1, 2, 3 teams coming in from the northern side of them, and yeah, okay, those 3 teams have to cross a road, Clover, so that's going to leave them in an open position. But if enough of those teams make their way across the road, UC Berkeley could easily find themselves compounded, confounded, and eliminated.
Ooh, and then big potential for elimination here. UCF is going to finally pull back to that building, but you can see that's going to make Florzona, Melipando, and Mixter in a really tough position as they're not able to find an easy vacancy to get themselves into the zone. But luckily for them, all this noise is going to make it easier for some of the rest of the teams to try to rotate back in the zone. You can see Melipando trying to stay ahead of the blue, but it's now phase 7, has no time for this. Down to 8 HP. 1 more bullet's all it's going to take. Nomad Rat spots him out here in UCF. Now retreating once again back into their building, but in doing so, they did allow Pluis and Beams to cross, and that was going to take out LSU. So Southeastern on 19 kills. Look at this. I mean, I told you, Imperium, I said there's always the opportunity for a team to pop off, and Concordia has allowed one to do exactly that. So Concordia might have gone to this match with a bit of a lead, but it looks like at least right now they might be losing it if they continue to play from that high ground without really being able to take a peek. I mean, you can see right now it got good vantage point, but what do they have to show for it?
Oh, Concordia looking to take those shots, a Sneak Attack with the SLR through the smokes, trying to find the players of the side of side is UCF gonna take the shots into NC.
Oh, Interesting angle to play from here. I'm loving this aggression coming out from Central Florida. You can see Oogie Boogie, the last one still up. He's going to spot a couple more players. Tries to get some damage into here, but Winlow and Arctic Wolf say no. And we'll have a little bit of time to recover, but again, that open road is going to be very difficult to cross from. You've got Cal that's been waiting ever so patiently in these buildings, looking to put some kills on the board, do some damage about it, and see them just kind of glance up to the top for a bit. They heard the shooting coming down from Concordia, but now Sneak Attack getting some damage here. Can't quite find the knock onto Pluis and Beams as they rotate back into the zone. You know, if you're Concordia, this is the team that you want to take out. And Sneak Attack finds an absolutely dirty angle there to take out Pluis.
That was a spicy meatball shot through those little wooden planks of that wall, but now it's going to be up to UC Berkeley. They're the only team up as a full squad. We're down to the final 4 teams, but can they hold on to the northern tip of the circle? Will the circle gods keep on going in the favor of Concordia?
Oh man, and Mitchie Boy is actually very low on ammo there. He's running double 7.62 weapons, and he doesn't really have enough for but 2 more clips onto this. So NCSU, with the smoke wall coming across, we can see some nades out, doing a bit of damage here. And Mitchie running a little bit lower on bullets. Is going to take a chance, push through the smoke, try to get them on the back side of this, but the smoke wall is too thick. He can't get sight onto here at all. Luckily, it's going to hit Winlow out, finds the flush. And we can see he's spotted out, but Mitchie Boy getting down Wolf somehow. Miraculous. Look at this. 15 bullets, 19 in reserve. He's got to be able to, he really needs to loot a body here. I mean, it's not going to be much for him after this fight. And now as the circle has come to a close, it is going to be halfway up the mountain. So not going to be an easy walk through into these teams. I think the best thing you could really hope to do here is just clear out everybody down below. And if you're Concordia, try and stay ahead of the blue without really doing much for it. So we can see we've got our top 4 teams, our top 3 teams now, excuse me. SC still 1 up. Concordia still with the 2 up top, but Berkeley full 4-man, and Flashy taking shots now, trying to take down a couple members of Berkeley, but just can't hit.
Sneak attack. God damn it, you gotta connect those shots on. You've allowed UC Berkeley to get too close towards the edge of the circle, with Mitchie Boy holding on. Southeastern are eliminated, and we're down to our final 2 teams. It's gonna be Concordia against the side of Cal. How can they hold on as they have to wrap down this hill?
And this would be a tricky hill. I mean, we saw Cruzy fell down a less steep, a less tall hill and was taken out pretty easily. So Concordia's ability to come out of this and come out of this safely is going to be pretty slim to none. And Mitchie Boy's in a beautiful position for the center of the zone. But, Sneak Attack falls, takes quite a bit of damage. Luckily, that dip was there to receive him. He's going to try to heal up. You can see the blue starting to close in. Flashy was already taken out by Mitchie Boy. And there's not really any easy wrap for here. So Sneak Attack once again falling down to 20 HP using his last first aid kit. But there's the potential that Frodo and the rest of the team don't expect him here. They can see right now all of Berkeley is still watching up high. And so as the blue zone comes in, Sneak Attack's got 2 options here. Die to the blue, admit defeat, and try and get at least 1 more kill, and with that comes the point. Sneak Attack getting a knock here onto Shane. Tries to find a second one, gets it here with Frodo, but he needs to connect these flushes if he wants these points. And we see some throwables back out, but they're going to roll right back down on top of him. He should be able to spot out Frodo and get the knock here, but Mitchie Boy a little bit too weary to overextend. Sneak Attack at the 3rd one. Can he get the full wipe? He does it. Mitchie Boy with the last few bullets of his Groza gets the victory in the end, and UC Berkeley taking the chicken dinner with 6 kills.
On one hand, Sneak Attack lived up to his name, right, in the sense of he was so sneaky. He took double fall damage, his vest, his helmet, they were both shattered into smithereens. He had to play so calculated. But on the other hand, you gotta say, how was he allowed to get away with that, right? How was he allowed to knock down 3 members of Berkeley? But at the end of the day, you know, it was still a great win. The circle kind of stayed in the El Azahar favor. They stayed on the southern side of that city, and in the end it worked out for them. One thing that I absolutely loved about UC Berkeley was Mitchie Boy on his proactive aggression. When I think in South Carolina were coming across the road, you have to do that. You know, even if it's in the smoke, you have to keep that pressure, and you cannot let any of the players of the opposing team get across that road, get into that wall side where they can punish you. So that was really well played by Mitchy Boy.
I mean, it really was. And sometimes, Mitchy Boy has a tendency to almost overextend and get himself in a situation that he can't quite recover from. But luckily, it actually worked very well in their favor. They were able to continue to maintain that control out to the north and ultimately get themselves in a really great position up there to the final. But I want to give a shout out to South, Eastern, because that was a phenomenal game for them. They came in today third on the leaderboard. They ended this match third in game, but first in kills. And that is going to be a huge point leap for them in terms of the overall leaderboard. So I'm going to be really excited after this match to see where they end up.
Yeah, I think they were like 43 points behind Concordia coming into this game, and they've halved that on kills alone. On kills alone, they pretty much halved that. Now, they might not have scored as many placement points as Concordia, but at the end of the day, that is a huge chunk of damage done, and that's going to make that overall top three just that little bit spicier coming into the rest of today's games and onwards in the coming weeks.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to go to a very quick break as we get set up for the next match. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a few minutes with some more PUBG. All right, guys, welcome back. We're back from our break. One match down, a few more to go this evening. And Imperium, we were just talking about it kind of during our break, but that final fight with Sneak Attack almost pulling off a 4v1, unfortunately, losing in the end was so wild. And it's been so crazy to see him play so far this season. We've talked a bit about some of the top teams and what our expectations are for their leaderboard, but what are you looking into going into this next match?
So into this next match, I think rotations can be a little bit more forgiving in Erangel compared to Miramar, not only because the teams should be way more familiar across the board with this map compared to Miramar, and two, because there's just a little bit more compounds, there's more terrain where you're able to kind of really spread yourselves out, maybe go for 3-1, 2-2-2 a bit more confidently. But the timing of the rotations, I do think needs to be improved upon for these teams. You kind of mentioned it. I think there is that kind of tendency to take a little bit too long to loot, not really move as early as they should. And even if it's just sending a scout early, just to gather that information, so you are a lot more confident coming. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, I couldn't agree more. You know, when we look at that last match, Rochester and Ontario are actually the first two teams that sent ahead, went to the zone. Even Florida had some scouting, and that was really imperative for their strong early mid game. The unfortunate problem for them is we had those really crazy circle shifts, and those were something that those teams could not recover from. But I'm going to go ahead and send it into the match. The plane is in the air. We're going to see where these teams drop out here onto Erangel.
See if Southeastern can have another pop-off game, right, to see if they can grab, double-digit kills across the board, if they can get that 19 kill bomb. That'd definitely be, again, nice to see in the overall standings. We do see a couple of teams, of course, dropping right off the bat. Central Florida heading towards Yasnaya. They're going to be a little bit on their own, of course. And then you do see two teams that's going to be Norwich and the side of Southeastern going to be heading towards the Lipovka area. Other than that, it is an even spread across the map for all of these teams.
Yeah, I mean, interesting to see a fight for Severny so early on between these two teams, especially when there was still a lot of opportunity for Ontario to kind of pull back out, take shooting range, take crossroads, take some of these buildings out to the south. But I think right now, the kind of look is, hey, I want to fight. I want some points. I want to do something here. We want to fight for this spot as well to potentially push one of these teams out from dropping here into the future. But now as the circle is going to pop, is actually going to be up in this area. But take a look at the river and the lake. It is cut almost perfectly through the middle of this, so teams kind of need to make that choice. Do you go to the north, or do you take a chance that's going to continue to perhaps even take a shift south of Yasnaya?
I do think that because it's complemented a plane path, it's not going to be too bad for most of these teams. Sonic is going to get a cheeky first kill onto Bloody Motions, but for most of the teams, it's not really going to be too bad. As I said, because of the even spread across the board, there is way more space to rotate, even if you are quite far outside the circle. I would say it's a bit more of a worry for the side of Iceman and his Rochester side, along with Concordia and St. Ambrose, because those three teams are all in kind of like the same area, Southeastern popping off.
Yeah, I mean, Southeastern was quick to grab vehicles. They had some guns. You see Chaotix going to get that flush there onto Beams' Naki. It's got an AKM, but they've been able to pick off a couple of players, and now you've just got two still left, and looks like they're going to go ahead and try and grab a second vehicle out of this, but now Southeastern's continue to close the gap. They weren't able to do much of anything. There's still two man in this car, and they can't put enough distance in them to leave this vehicle. I mean, they've got to find a place that they can put into safely that will also allot them to time to grab weapons and armor and stay away. But you could see Southeastern is just completely locked and loaded into this.
You know, one of those like old black and white movies where you have the music of it's like, that's what it kind of looks like. His belt is just kind of going, come on guys, just let me loot up, just let me go, guys. I'm just a man, I deserve to loot up. But now is he see, and here's the thing, he can't, okay, he is gonna somewhat stop by the compound that's just opposite the museum area, but he's actually going towards museum, and Sonic is looking for him.
Oh, we see it looks like Southeastern at this point is just having fun trolling a little bit. At Norwich taking, you know, their maritime strolling very close. You can see right now more shots back out. Ooh, Beams is going to find another one here and a headshot taking down Webbington. And there you go, the vehicle out in force again to get those flushes. I'm not sure what Southeastern's up to, but you know the rest of the teams have to be looking at this kill feed and absolutely wondering. I mean, the pressure that Southeastern has kept on Norwich, you've got to remember, I mean, for them, those are free kills. They have absolutely nothing. And as long as they kept their eyes on them, that was going to be easy going for them, but not easy going right now. Has been this fight happening in Severny. We've had a bit of trades here between FSU and Ontario, but so far FSU a little bit stronger into this. You can see both Dude and SA Kid have been knocked down. Grey Tax and Oblivion the Ace looking for another angle onto this fight, but at Florizona, that's going to take so long to get used to. There we go. Florizona keeping this pressure on here. Because, you know, this was Florida last year. We had 2 Florida states. Now we've got Florida with Arizona together. You guys, you just trying to mess me up here.
I think it's cool. Honestly, it's my favorite team name in this CBA. Like Florizona, it's just like it rolls off the tongue, and it's a little bit spicier. But of course, they are gonna keep hold of this Severny area. They've become the kings of Severny, but you can see the side of NC State. They are rotating a little bit similar as they did in the first game, quite heavily in towards the central part of the circle. Not really going to catch out any of these two teams, but at least they're perching themselves off to maybe catch out Florizona coming into the end of phase 1, phase 2. So I really like that quick rotation coming out from North Carolina.
Yeah, North Carolina, I think, was a little bit curious at these buildings at the crossroads just south of Severny. They were going to be able to spot out Grey Tax and Oblivion the Ace. They can hear what's going on with Florizona and Severny, and so they're going to go ahead and take the next best thing, which is those hills up to the north compound. And these have been hills that have been pretty, I would say, active in the end game. So at least depending on where this phase 2 shift could go, this could be a huge position for them to hold if the circle looks like it might be favoring to the northwest, but it's still a little bit early to tell. We can see as well, we've still got plenty of teams that need to work their way into the zone. Rochester had actually rotated onto military, got to loot it for free, but now they're coming in the backside of SAU. I can kind of just see, you know, beyond Pachinki, that school Razak area, all right now open for the taking. But again, I'm really curious to see where the circle shift's going to be. And we've got a crate out in the area. It was just looted. Well, it looks like Colsey and Midwest. So he was able to grab a Groza off that.
See, British Columbia, they're rotating relatively nicely from the southern part of this map, going to be perching themselves on the southeast of Yasnaya. It's a little bit similar to kind of North Carolina in the sense of it's relatively close to the center of the circle, but it's not too close where they're going to be surrounded by 4 or 5 teams. It's not as high of a terrain as North Carolina, but I really think it's a strong start for a UBC coming into this Wrangle game. You kind of touched upon it in the sense of it is a little bit too early to tell, but if you're doing a tiny bit of speculation, definitely going to be looking out for UBC in North Carolina.
I mean, these are always really tough circles to try and call IGLing when you're not quite certain where it's going to be. So putting yourselves in a good position to have strong control over the rotation, whether it's going to go to the north or south, could be huge. In fact, I was seeing a couple of teams right now that are staying in around that Yasnaya, Central Florida, in a really fantastic place where they could potentially rotate up to the north so the circle hang that way, play gatekeeping for the teams coming into the south, or if the circle goes south of the river, they've got easy access to go in and around through Yasnaya. So I'm really liking that position for them as well. But now Berkeley, they have been hanging in the edge. And speaking of the edge, you've got Edge and the rest of UC driving in through this right now, and Mitchie Boy trying to get as quickly as he can, take some shots at this buggy. He's going to get a bit of damage, hasn't found a knock just yet, but one more bullet, that's all it's going to need here, but just a little slow.
Come on.
One more shot. Oh.
So close, yet so far. Close, but no cigar.
Blockhead is hurting, but he is going to survive from this.
And, one thing that I just kind of want to point out is that I am a little bit surprised that Rochester decided to commit to the southwestern side of the map and on their rotation, because I touch upon this. When you're talking about law of percentages, in my opinion, there's a much lower percentage of teams are going to be on the eastern side of this map. So by going on the western side, you're instantly putting yourself at more risk, at more danger, as you see UC Berkeley are trying to take those shots onto Rochester. So it does surprise me that they decided to stay on the western side of the map on their rotation towards the circle of phase 1.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thought here is that, well, maybe everybody went towards Pachinki, so we should take the wider rotation where there isn't anybody. The problem is when everybody thinks that way, you tend to rotate into each other. Now, as you can actually see, Rochester in a good position to punish here just a bit. They're going to take Magnum down. Looking for that flush. Frodo can't quite get there close enough to help out, but Michi Boy with some return fire is going to push Hershey back just a little bit here. And so Berkeley might be able to recover just a bit. Now, the circle did shift, and it did shift north of the river. So the rest of the teams that tried to gamble think it was going to go south, having to reposition, retransition. And that position we talked about the NCSU had, as well as Ontario in the crossroads, is going to be really, really important going forward from these circles.
Yeah, especially because when you look at Concordia, they went for a really wide western shift, but it was a really wide western shift as opposed to Rochester, right? They went on the North George Bridge. They've come in on the western side coastal line, and they've gone past a number of teams towards a shooting range area, and that is going to create more pressure for Michi Boy and the rest of his side, along with Rochester. So that was a really great rotation that came out from the Concordia side.
We can see once again Colsey keeping that damage and work coming in Midwest, holding a nice little split here. They've got Colsey still down in the gas station. Have sent Delta up ahead to try to take out the rest of these compounds. So that's going to pressure teams back out away. You can see taking shots now with that SKS. Tell LSU, nope, this place is taken. Keep on keeping on. And that's going to force LSU into the crossroads. And this crash is going to come at a cost as Big Penguin TV gets taken back down, but not before trading it out just once bit. You see Great Tax has been taken down. So Oblivion the Ace last still up here for Ontario. It's going to have to make a lot of noise and make it sound like he's still got plenty of teammates here, but LSU with nowhere else to go is going to full commit to this crash.
A nice crash, in my opinion, that came out from the side of Louisiana as Beast is just trying to hold on. Of course, with his teammates, there's going to be Oblivion Ace that's going to be left standing for the Ontario side. Of course, they came into this little compound region with only 2 players left standing, so having one of their players knocked down, that's a bit of a risk going into the vehicle. I know it's in amongst the smokes, but you're going to be disengaging away. You're out in the open. Beast is going to take those shots, but not going to connect.
Oh, Beast right now switching to the SLR. If he could just get 1 or 2 shots, even a headshot, that's going to be it for Ontario. You see they had to leave Great Tax behind, but there's nowhere really for Oblivion the Ace to go. In fact, he's heading straight for Gribbles, but meanwhile, a full crash coming in from Rochester pulled right up here onto Concordia. And Concordia has been kind of watching the entrance. They got a little bit overzealous. I think we're hoping to try to rush out in time, but Rochester beat them to the punch. And it's actually going to push them back just a bit. Meanwhile, we can see Alabama right now trying to hold the edge. We've got a couple teams still in this area. SAU, and on the back side of that as well, Cincinnati. And SAU with only 1 player still up. This is tough, but those smokes might be enough to keep them alive here just yet. But the pressure coming in from Cincinnati is huge.
Yeah, it really is. It's very big. They're pinched between 2 sides right now as the circle has shifted up. It's centralized quite nicely, staying on the north of the river, which I think, the teams are relatively going to be very pleased with this circle shift, because on that phase 2, there was a little bit of a temptation of shifting hard down south on phase 3, so it's going to breathe a slight sigh of relief for even on the teams who are still on the south of the river, in my opinion. But you only really have belts that's left standing for his side in Yaz9. He's the only player that is on the south of the river, so every other team on the north, either inside the circle or outside the circle.
Yeah, we talked earlier about those teams that were holding out the Stallbur area, and UCF and UBC have kind of been going at it quite a bit. And we can see as well here on the edge, Cincinnati keeping the pressure on both SAU and Alabama, who haven't really been able to get into the zone safely. Alabama dealing with their own problems, but miraculously, SAU was actually able to pick up 2 of those 3 downs. Crimson 1K was going to be flush. We could see taking now a bit of a chance, a risky rotation up ahead of them, though. You've got quite a few teams, and Alabama is still very close to as well. So Concordia was able to actually get out of shooting range, and now might be rewarded with the ability to take some shots at a couple teams in and around the shooting range area themselves. So living up to the namesake here, you can see Morin's already a little bit curious about who is down below.
Now it's a matter of them being able to third party this fight, as we are going to see SAU going up against Alabama. CMB with the VSS will have those silent shots off, might be able to do something with that.
Yeah, I mean, a VSS Scar meta, not the strongest here for esports in PUBG, but, at the same time, you've got to work with what you've got, and at close range, that VSS might actually be enough to do something here for Dense Plains, but it doesn't look like Alabama's really looking in this direction right now, so Calzo needs to be really mindful of letting Dense in here, because this could be really deadly position for them. St. Ambrose doing something to capitalize on. The biggest thing that's helped out these two teams, though, is that Concordia, who's up the hill, has now been walked on to Cincinnati, who is trying to continue this third party, so that's going to give a little bit of time for this fight to pop up at Dense Plains. It's going to find one knock, looks to find the second one. A little bit of trader, though, as Ginger Jesus is going to get the down here.
Number one rule, you get a knock, you reposition. You don't stay in that position for too long, otherwise you're going to get counter-knocked. Now it's going to be up to see what Concordia can do in this fight. It's going to be, they're going to be on the lower ground. They're definitely under a little bit of pressure, but with none of their players knocked down, they can full send it, they can close out this team fight and stay on the western side of this circle.
I mean, see, Flashy actually took just a little bit of a peek at shooting range, decided to see if they could get sight on this, but the smart play here for Concordia is to keep the focus on to Cincinnati, because the moment that they turn their backs, try to focus back down on shooting range, is the moment that Cincinnati could potentially walk back up on them. But now, as you see, that circle is going to take a hard shift to the east of all of these teams, and that means that these four squads are going to have to wrap this up and start thinking about their next rotation into the zone, because this circles like this, I mean, it's a lot of open area, and what few compounds are in the circle are already occupied.
Pretty much this is going to be very tricky for all the teams who are outside the circle. British Columbia and Central Florida are two of those teams on the eastern side. Shots are coming out from Span Cargo, who's going to be able to get that clean knockdown and stays with just below half health for her side. She might look to try and get a first aid off, but no, gonna clean up, and British Columbia are wiped out. Nice aggression by Span Cargo.
I'm really loving the control she had with her recoil there. Is able to take out both members of UBC. I mean, this fight had been going on for quite a bit here, and they are going to win this out, though with 3-man, they're going to have to, once again, as we talked about, focus on getting in the zone, figure out that next rotation, and get it in safely, because there's so much open ground that is visible from far and wide here for snipers. As you can see in the kill feed here, there's plenty of snipers afoot. Spirit getting a headshot knock, and all the way across range here, you can see Cal Esports Berkeley starting to set up for this as well. So this could be pretty huge. I mean, these trees, this is the couple of kind of not even really true dips. There's not a lot of coverage here for these teams to play with, depending on where the circle could or couldn't go. Now, we do have got rocks, and there's always the potential as well to create hard cover with vehicles. So that's something I'd be looking for some of these teams. With the circle so wide, we're only into phase 4. You don't necessarily want to give up that utility too early either.
No, you don't. And if anything, playing on the edge of the circle is actually going to be more important, more vital for these remaining 12 teams. It's a matter of being able to control the edge of that circle, create that space around you. As Norwich are eliminated, we do have a couple of teams down on the southern side of the circle looking at the side of Concordia, along with UC Berkeley, along with the side of UC Cincinnati, with just Fagolic. It's going to be left standing on their own. Can Frodo maybe be a little bit of a third party, as I fear the Dark is going to get knocked down on the other side.
I mean, every there's not even third parting. It's like fifth dimensional parting at this point, because everybody has sights on just about everyone. And so Concordia playing the smart, trying to come into the backside of this fight that's already been going on here between Cincinnati and Berkeley to potentially take out what I think is probably one of the better positions to play from with a circle like this. In fact, this is, I think, really what these two teams are kind of thinking about. Berkeley has quite a bit of experience on them, but Concordia, I think, one of the most experienced rosters presently in this lobby. And that's why we're seeing some of these really insane plays coming out for them. The big thing right now that we're really looking for Berkeley is their ability to hold this out. As Mitchy Boy's going to find out, Fagoholic will take him back down, but now you've got to worry about the walk-on for Concordia, who was watching the kill feed, waiting for that to happen. They realized now's the time to strike. Don't give Berkeley any time to recover. And you see Magnum already setting up for these shots.
I really like the position that's coming out from Berkeley. Having Shane flanking on the high ground dip, overlooking Concordia, that is giving information, but Mords is going to come in. Mitchy Boy's going to come out. Concordia don't care about the positions of Berkeley. They're just going full, sending it into that compound.
You really can't let somebody take away with this third story, and Concordia is taking a huge risk, and that risk is unfortunately going to come at the cost of sneak attack. You see Frodo, though, thought, maybe it was in the clear, could try to get that heal, and that was when we saw the follow-up there, so Frodo's going to get knocked in flush, but meanwhile, Shane working on this res, trying to get Magnum up and keep Berkeley, at the very least, a two-man squad. Taking out Flashy was huge, but Morn's already starting to send it. And you see, looking for those shots, trying to find that knock here, missing everything here. And oh, he's going to get Shane, but Magnum was able to heal and is going to be traded.
Now it's going to be up to Cool Pepper. Can he stay cool and sprinkle a little bit of spicy pepper onto the side of Cal? Now he's going to full send it in. He's on his own. The revive came up. It's 1v2. He's going to find one knockdown. He's going to find a second. He's going to find a squad wipe, and Concordia stay in this game. What a fantastic recovery from Concordia.
I mean, fantastic indeed. Unfortunately, Cole Pepper doesn't have the time to get the res on the more, and Blue Zone was creeping right at their heels, and it's phase 5. So, even if he was able to get the res, the zone is going to immediately knock him back down. So, unfortunately, he's going to have to continue on to the zone without him. Meanwhile, the rest of the teams out to the north have continued to fight. We've seen a couple of players picked off left and right for rotations. It's really taken some of these squads down to fewer numbers, but now NCSU still 4-man up, sent 2 ahead, got themselves a nice repositions toward the center. The problem is that Arctic Wolf not really in a position to rejoin the rest of his teammates in his anchor position. Meanwhile, Southeastern have a nice little split, sent beams ahead into the zone with a good position, but we can see right now trying to do what they can onto Central Florida to take him out from the other pole. But now Span Cargo getting a little bit adventuresome. She's looking for an angle. As the big thing that UCF has to do is take out Southeastern, or they're not going to really be able to get into the zone safely.
Yeah, 110% agree with that. But as they try and hover on, Cool Pepper, the last player standing from Concordia, is going to look for a knockdown with the vehicle and the confirmed kill onto Beams. 0 Fs given as he goes down, but he does take somebody with him along the way, as we do lose Span Cargo and Central Florida are down to just 2 players, Oogie Boogie and Big Butt Judy.
There's something poetic about taking out a player with the vehicle who started out this match hunting down other players with the vehicle.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you've really got to say that karma, just a little, maybe served up freshly alongside a potential chicken dinner for one of these squads this match. But now, again, we're back to that problem at hand we talked about, which is this insane open area. And a lot of teams have already exhausted their vehicles, which are the easy access for rotation. So if we wait for the circle to shift, luckily it's going to shift on all the teams that are kind of out of options, just leaving everybody out to the west. It still have healthy vehicles and healthy ways into the zone. So this is kind of the best case scenario for most of these teams.
Yeah, and I was even thinking before the circle shift, it was already difficult for Louisiana and St. Ambrose, because not only were they going to be potentially outside the circle if they did shift to the east like it did, but you have those rows in between, right? The 2 road lines where you really have to navigate around you. That instantly takes away a bit of freedom of your ability to rotate into the circle effectively. Yeah, for the side of St. Ambrose, they have a little bit of an easier job because they can shift on the northern side, but when they're constantly being put under pressure by Louisiana, that's taking time away because it's going to be closing in the next 2 minutes.
Louisiana has been playing this quite well, just now got their first kill for the match. They've been racking up so much damage. You can see the pressure that they kept on St. Ambrose is going to continue on now as they take shots at Lot of Chod, but it looks like B still hasn't been able to get that knock yet. In fact, he's just going to switch to the M4 and hope that the bullet drop helps him out a little bit here, but Blue Zone's moving in. It's phase 6, and they've got to stay ahead of this. Lot is actually down to 2 HP, so Louisiana almost got this squad wipe here they've been working on for SAU. This hill has been huge for them to play from here, and
no.
Rochester getting the last bullet there. Crop GG. Getting that one now. 6 teams, 16 players left alive. Beast, the last one, still isn't in the zone along with the LSU. You can see they've got a little bit of a dip right ahead of them. So if they snake this the rest of the way in the zone, should be able to get in without being spotted. But now this wrap coming in from Midwest is a little bit risky. I mean, this could be big to take some shots, do some action here onto UCF, but they really opened themselves up to Rochester. The big thing I think that's helped them out here is that Rochester right now is a little bit preoccupied taking shots at NCSU.
Yeah, they're definitely a little bit distracted by North Carolina, maybe not expecting a team to be behind them on the western side of this circle. But you know what? You got to expect the unexpected. You got to cover all your angles. You got to cover all your grounds. As the Blue Zone's closing in, I'm definitely looking at what Florizona do on the eastern side of this map. If it goes away from them, they have to full send it onto NCSU's spot.
I think the full send from Gribbles right now onto UCF, but it looks like is going to get that knock, but now damage already traded right back out. Louisiana using this as a good opportunity to attack both Beast and Gardon, picking up some here. Now sitting on a couple of kills. Colsey and Delta just a little bit split. Colsey once again finding him up at the end game late for Midwest, but the circle is going to shift right back onto Colsey, and that's good positioning for him. Just needs to get Delta to come back and rejoin, but the problem with Delta right now is he can't really move because of all this pressure that's coming in from Louisiana State.
I know Rochester don't want to overpeak, right? They don't want to overextend, but you have to recognize the fact that you still have 3 players up. You have to start putting pressure. You're hearing the shots that's coming out from the side of LSU, so you really have to kind of make that port of call. And what I was wondering about Florizona on the eastern side, they have to full send it with those buildings onto the shack that's held onto by NCSU, because NCSU are still inside the circles. Do or die, it's now or never. Go in for the full send and hope for the best.
I mean, Florizona does have a US that's healthy, but they'll have to take blue zone damage to grab it. We see instead they're just going to go for the smoke wall. The big thing, unfortunately for Florizona, is that they're really hurting and missing quite a bit of armor. You can see a couple helmets are missing, and Iceman is going to fall there. As we see Louisiana now getting spotted out by Rochester. Beast gets taken down. It's jumped to just Garden. It's not going to make...
Now, of course, NCSU, they're on the far northern edge of the circle. By the side of the road, you got the 3 teams left standing. It is going to be 3v3v2. Florizona have done a great job wrapping around on the southeastern side of the circle. I said they should have pushed in onto NCSU, but you know what? They're proving me just a little bit wrong by making that rotation and creating that space for them inside the circle. But if you look down, they're out in the open. If anything, they have to go a little bit downhill, which is going to expose them a bit more. All the while, Rochester, they're still inside the shack. They are closest to the center circle. It is going to close in on the phase 8, and that's where NCSU, North Carolina, realize they have to create more space, sending Winlow in with that US. That is going to be their security blanket, but can they hold on to that spot, or will Florizona take it over?
I mean, Rochester doesn't have line of sight onto Florizona. There's just a little bit of a dip that's preventing that line of sight. And so if Mello and Zez Games continue to play the snaking game, there's a good potential for them to play this from quite well. Now, the thing that Florizona needs to be a little bit careful of is that repositioning that came from Winlow. He's sent to the center of phase 8. So when we get to that phase 9, he's in prime position. But Winlow's actually just going to go ahead and play this full aggression, running up onto Rochester. To see Pseudo Void is still watching the rest of the team. So it's actually those shots are coming out from Regimes and Beck that have kind of locked in Rochester. The big thing from this now as well, as you can see, Winlow really opening himself up here is going to get not 1, but 2 players down. Pseudo Void gets taken out. Iceman gets flushed. There's still 1 left for Rochester. Meanwhile, Florizona is continuing to lie prone, not get spotted out here. And Crop GG trying to recover, but you see the blue zone's clothing in. They've got to do something for this, but Zez Games stands up, uses this as a prime opportunity to get some damage, and the rest of NCSU hitting Regimes. The damage is traded, hasn't found the knock just yet, but Mellow Panda's going to get back down. If they can take out a second player, that's huge. Mellow Panda's actually going to find it here. Zez might be able to get the flush, and Florida could potentially ruin this for NCSU, depending on how it goes with Crop GG here. Winlow is just waiting patiently, but look what happened. It's come at the cost. Winlow getting out Crop, and now he needs to turn his attention back to Florizona as a 2v1, and Winlow switching the AKM. He's looking for that close range fight, but look, he's not looking in the right area. Zez Games is going to get a couple shots on him, finds the flush, and now with 6 kills, Florizona, who I thought were goners, take the victory in the end here.
Hey, look, they proved me wrong, right? Playing on the southeastern edge towards the end, being a little bit clever, a little bit calculated on their rotation definitely benefited from them. But, talking about Rochester, you kind of mentioned in terms of like, Winlow closing in onto Rochester. It wasn't the fact that North Carolina closed in onto Rochester. Rochester closed in on themselves. I mentioned it even a phase or two before that, where they had to kind of spread the wings just a little bit more, even if it was at the risk of one of their players getting knocked. Whereas they were just so bunched in onto that shack that they allowed North Carolina to put pressure on them. They allowed Louisiana, even though Louisiana didn't end up surviving, to put pressure on them. And yeah, okay, they got a solid placer result, but I feel like they could have done just a little bit more.
Now, guys, we're going to go to a quick break, but before we do, I want to give a quick shout out as well to all of our sponsors here for CBA Season 7, brought to you by the North American Collegiate League, GTIF Capital, Just Hoops, and Sector 6 Apparel. This is Season 7, as I just said. We're into week 2 of 5, and so far 2 of 4 games down, halfway through our meme map rotation. We'll be going back to Miramar in just a bit, but guys, we'll be back in a moment. So when we return from that break, we'll take a quick updated look, see where our teams are standing, and maybe kind of take an overhead view about who we think might actually be the strong teams out of this lobby Imperium.
110%. It's going to be exciting to see who's shifting up and down in the standings.
All right, guys, we'll be back in just a moment, so don't go anywhere. All right, guys, welcome back. We are at the halfway point through tonight's matches. I'm Clover. He is Imperium, and we are here to bring you collegiate season 7 week 2 games of PUBG. It was brought to you by the North American Collegiate League, GTIF Capital, Just Hoops, and Sector 6 Apparel. NACL is providing a $1,000 prize pool for this season and the chance for the top 8 teams of the season and next season to compete for a chance to play on the Wolves PUBG esports team. We're also, I think, doing a Play for Pink breast cancer research. Just got done with Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but that doesn't mean we can't have that awareness absolutely year round. So, Imperium, we've had a Miramar game, we've had an Aragel game. Both have been absolutely wild, and we've seen kind of a difference in terms of which teams were able to put down kills this match. So I'm really interested to see, especially with Southeastern, that Miramar match that we started with, what's going to look like going into this next game.
And, even looking a little bit at the overall standings, Concordia still do have a bit of a lead. They do still have a bit of a cushion over second place. That's still, like, I think 33 points. But what I really love is that Southeastern, who are in second place now, have the highest amount of kills. So if they can back that up with a few more games of high placement with those solid kills, then honestly, I could easily see them catching up in Concordia. And Concordia have performed amazingly up until this point.
Yeah, I mean, Concordia didn't do too terrible for themselves last match by any means. The biggest issue right now is that you're allowing Concordia to get placement points even on the matches where they're not doing too much in terms of kills. So Southeastern having an absolute bonkers game on Miramar early definitely has done a lot to help them close that gap. They've jumped themselves into second place and kind of put themselves in a nice position to potentially, even if they're not take over Concordia today, get themselves in the running, but to potentially play through that next week and maybe take a lead in the lobby. And so this is anything proof that for all of these teams involved, a 40-point lead is by no means a comfortable lead, as we've continued to see some teams put down some work today. And speaking of putting down work, Midwest, right, they've got a couple of good games so far today. Colsey up in the late game with Delta the last match. Colsey is up in the late game for the first one as well. And now right now you see a couple of shots coming out onto Bama. I love the aggression that we're getting from some of these teams.
Hey, look, nothing like just sending a whisper, a couple of bullets towards the way of an opposing unit. Just go and get the hell away from our area. And it's also very important because as we look at phase 1, that's showing up, it's very central on this Miramar map, right? So not only does it allow teams to really a bit more comfortably get into the position that they want to. There's no real super harsh rotation that's going to be coming out, but I think it is going to make it just a little bit more important to hold on to your area inside this phase 1 circle because teams are much closer to the center of this Miramar phase 1. So I think Midwest just even pulling out those few shots on towards the members of Alabama, I think it's just it's very good showing for them to just create that space moving in towards this phase 1.
Yeah, I mean, this flight path was pretty south, all things considered. It had kind of a slight little tilt to the north in the end, which is why we've got a couple teams out here in the El Polso power grid area. But there's a really good potential for a lot of these teams that are clustered down to the south to take those wide rotations, try to get away from the flight path, and that could potentially send them in this vicinity for some of these teams. So this kind of fight for dominance over these positions a little bit early on by Midwest, and Colsey's actually going to hit those shots, taking down Praetor Demon. But you can see right there is going to be returned in fire just a bit, as I think Ginger Jesus trying to keep the pressure out, but there might be a potential loss of player here. Bama, I just don't think can get into this safely to try to get a res out. In fact, you've already got Gribbles who's really sent it in close. Yeah. They are going to get the flush there. As you can see, Gribbles in a good position. But now, I mean, Colsey, the rest of Midwest, is just going to full send it onto this compound because you know what? Why not?
This is really good proactive play for Midwest. On one hand, you go, do they need to do this early? But on the other hand, they know that Alabama drop later. They know that they're underlooted compared to Midwest. So Midwest are looking to be the savage wolves, just to constantly put pressure and be proactive and take that squad out, create extra space that I talked about. And it was a great flank coming out for Gribbles. He's going to look to catch it, Ginger Jesus. Down he goes, and Gribbles has one more player in his sights, just to the left of him, but does he know he's there? There's Kuzu, or Kauzu, is just holding down his area for dear life.
I mean, I love this Midwest Sol. We've got a flush. We had a down. There was only going to be 2 up and figured, hey, now's the time to take the push. They're able to get a third here. As you said, Kauzu, last one still upstanding. So he's trying to hold this crazy angle here onto the concretes. Gribbles might be the closest to be in his sight just to start, but you can see across the street, you still got Delta, who's keeping watch and trying to make sure nothing funny happens. So as Kauzu says, now's the time to try and flee, get out of here safely, and keep going through the late game. Looks like nobody really had sight on here, and so he should be able to get away without being punished. But now, the question at hand is, how's he going to rotate? Where's he going to play this from?
Yeah.
The circle is still quite big. As we know about Miramar, we get those ridiculous shifts, but a couple of other teams now sending it out ahead. Fear to Fork, leaving El Pozo with 1. And that's going to take them up and close to this Midwest range. You can see Delta did spot out Kauzu, took a couple shots, but I think he's got enough distance in front of him for safety. And so the big thing for Midwest now needs to be worried about is this rotation coming in. Fear to Fork's actually going to drive right past Gribbles.
Oh, be careful, Fear to Fork. I know you're trying to get a little bit of information, but now he's going to go up the laneway as Gribbles is just going to... Oh, wait, more people? More victims? Oh, just keep them coming, guys. Keep them coming. But here's the thing. Something that Midwest need to realize. They're in the position that they punish Alabama from. And they got to realize they need to disengage away from that position and get onto the high ground area. Otherwise, they could be the ones that become, the hunters become the hunted.
Yeah, this kind of 2-2 forward split, scouting mission is what we've really seen from Florizona all day today. And Fear to Fork, once again, now has that information on Midwest. So the rest of Florizona, always a potential to now take action against that squad. We could see is beginning taking action. Rochester, once again, in early fights here, this time versus Central Florida. And so Crop was in a good position to just get a little bit of information, do some damage. So it's going to go pull back to that compound and have a little bit more safekeeping, because if you get knocked out too far ahead, you're not going to be able to get rezzed. And so this is smart thinking from him here, but there's a couple of other teams in this area, and so Rochester needs to be just a little bit careful not to get too locked in too early for this, because there's always the potential to get caught off guard.
Yeah, you got Norwich, you got North Carolina State. Those two teams around these two opposing teams are taking shots towards each other, and that's where Crop GG and the rest of the Rochester side made such a valuable call by joining back up together and realizing, hey, 2-2 splits might work in some situation, but in this situation, it's not working. Let's retreat back up. We're close to the center circle. We don't need to be split up.
Oh, and look at this from so far away out in Picado.
Yeah.
Beck hitting shots onto this. And this is, another team in CSU that has really done well on the leaderboards. Today, have had a couple of heartbreaking plays for themselves, and they've managed to fall third. Of course, I say fall as if they've done something wrong. They haven't. It's just that Southeastern is looking that amazing today.
And for North Carolina, they honestly, they, in my opinion, have been the best team when it comes to rotating and moving and positioning early in these games, and they've made it work so far. Maybe with not being as I'm trying to ignore that, but I'm just like, yeah, okay, Louisiana, have your fun, you absolute bunch of legends.
I mean, when you've been playing in CBA for as long as you have, and your team have played together for as long as you have, oftentimes I always say that this is probably one of the best teams in CBA that doesn't always take it as seriously.
Yeah. Oh my lord, one of those things. But yeah, kind of North Carolina definitely commend what they're doing as Fear to Fork, waiting to find the shots. He does, but they do not connect on the calls, because he's going to back up and find those shots, and Fear to Fork gets instantly returned by Cos. That was nice return fire command. That's going to put more pressure on the Fear to Fork, as the Florizona team are going to join up to his location.
All right, and okay, we did get some information. Beast actually disconnected, so that's fine. Take away my fun, but what I said still stands. This is the, I think, best team of trolls in this lobby, because when it comes down to the wire, I mean, their mechanics are absolutely on point in terms of LSU, but at the same time, they know how to have fun, and that's something that I really like to see in leagues like this. But Colsey has been a person that I've really been enjoying watching so far today. As we really see him be quite active, quite aggressive, and proactive in terms of what he's able to really accomplish and position himself for in terms of the squad. But unfortunately now Beast, right as he's reconnecting, it's actually going to stand him up outside of the vehicle. It's not something that Beast did, but how the game throws him out, and NCSU in a good position to capitalize on that, as they are going to take him out. But LSU with still 2 players standing. Central Florida, meanwhile, need to be a little bit careful on their toes, as we can see Nomad Wrath and the rest of the squad repositioning.
North Carolina kind of were in a little bit of a 2-1-1 split, but now they've joined up as a 3-1 with Regimes now looking to go across the road towards the graveyard area. I was wondering, was Ontario's position maybe a little bit too risky, but because they got into that spot just towards the northeast of graveyard, they're able to play around it quite effectively. So really like that from Ontario. Maybe they'll be able to punch a couple of teams around, and the phase 2 did shift up northeast to the team that has kind of the furthest to go. Central Florida to take the fight, but North Carolina coming in from behind with Window taking those shots, but he's going to be returned once again. He's going to have to backtrack.
Oh, it was almost traded there. You could see just how absolutely low their health is here, but Nomad Wrath manages to stay standing and gets a little bit of help from Ontario, as that's going to push Winlow and Beck back down into the church at Graveyard. But you still got to be a little bit careful of Regimes, who's coming in slowly, trying to wrap in behind Central Florida and do something about Oogie Boogie and Big Butt Judy here. But you could see right now this little 2-2 kind of breakaway, not even a true split here. Span Cargo and Nomad Wrath try to hold down, keep the pressure on the rest of NCSU inside Graveyard, but he gets spot out Regimes as he's going to go ahead and full back send it. And this is center of the zone, so these teams still have plenty of time to fight this out. There's no reason to really rotate away from this just yet, unless Central Florida, maybe wants to pull back behind and just stay safe, but that's not them. They want to try and get some points. They want to play for this position, and the Span Cargo is going to get knocked out here, but Nomad Wrath keeping that pressure to return, try to get themselves enough breathing room to get this res.
And Big Butt Judy instantly responds by sending himself a little bit more forward to provide that level of support. What's helping Central Florida right now is that Ontario did actually force a bit of a reposition from North Carolina. That's why Regimes joined back up into that graveyard building with the rest of his side. So that's giving a little bit more space. And even though they are towards the center circle, for Central Florida, they can't be too narrow-minded, right? Because there is going to come a point on this next shift where teams down south or even to the west are going to rotate closer to their position. And right now, they're a little bit pinched out in the open.
The big problem, right, with this position is how out in the open it is. You can see just out in the distance, Ontario, right, has a really good vantage point for this. And when we talk about the open, Rochester, right, taking full advantage of the open area out ahead of them as they continue shots onto Florizona. And we'll see even in the kill feed, Kaozu gets eliminated with that Alabama. So, this circle, oftentimes you see those teams that go for that graveyard position, but where Rochester is could be really huge. And so if they keep that kind of bullying going here with FSU, don't allow them to get up to that ridge line, that could potentially give Rochester the ability to play from that. As you can see now, that circle's actually going to rotate well off to the northeast, and so all these teams are going to have to continue to move on, and that positioning that Ontario's had is actually going to really work well here in Southeastern, annihilating British Columbia. So once again, we're seeing them be a little bit comfortable on this map, racking up those kills.
Yeah, a little bit of a shame from British Columbia to have a little bit drop in Trey's performance and Trey's results, but let's see coming into last game if they're going to be able to make something with that. Central Florida kind of realized they needed a pinch out of this fight, right? They needed a pinch out of this area, so then by instantly reacting to that circle shift relatively quickly and going around the side of Ontario, they've kind of said to Ontario, hey, you take the fight onto North Carolina, we're getting the hell out of here. And that was really nice decision making by Central Florida.
A nice decision-making indeed, as you say now. They're trying to stay themselves up alive. And speaking of staying alive, SAU trying to get away and rotate into the zone safely away from Midwestern. Rochester Institute of Technology, meanwhile, have spotted out Florida State, keeping those shots on, but really struggling to get a knock here. We can see they're actually going to lose control of their vehicles. They've lost some tires out. That car's actually going to explode. So Florida will live through this enough and is actually going to get some damage onto LSU. As you can see, Oh, Rochester spot him out here. Melopanda gets taken down. Mixter very low, and just Fear the Fort and Mixter left still standing. And this is the worst place to be. There's nowhere for Mixter to really go, unfortunately.
Nope. He's stuck between a rock and a hard place, and the rock being the open fields and the hard place being all the teams around him. But he's going to try and survive. He's going to dip himself inside the shack. And look, the good thing is that shack is kind of well inside the circle on the western side, so hopefully he can stay out of sight, out of mind. But really looking on towards the two teams that are down on the southeastern side of the circle. You're looking at UC Berkeley. You're looking at towards the side of Norwich. Because when you think about it, they have the meanest generalis areas to play around. There's a very high ground mountainside just towards them and when you look at it, even though they might not know it, they're the only two teams on the southeastern side. Of course, they're going to come into a bit of a collision, but whoever comes out on top could definitely set themselves up for a very strong position in Phase 3, Phase 4.
Oh, and this is a really rough transition coming out from Rochester. They're going to drive right through what's left of Midwestern and LSU, and they're going to pay the price for it. As you see, Suda Void gets taken down. Crop GG is the last one still up, and he's just going to full send it right past Mixter's shack. And I think the circle shift is the biggest thing to help Mixter out here. Is Crop's just going to hope, hey, maybe nobody's here at the warehouse. In fact, I think his assumption is that there's already going to be a team there. You're going to see him stop short. And there's a potential for a lot of teams to play from this position. Now you've got as well what's left of LSU, what's left of Midwestern, and even what's left of Southeastern that need to find a place in the zone safely. So if any of those teams have a vehicle, that could be potentially a fantastic place for them to try and fight from. The question is if they scouted out enough information to see that it is in fact free and take a chance on that crash.
Oh man, Crops. He's been able to get ahead of Mixter, but at the end of the day, it's a similar situation, right? They're both on their own. They're both pretty much left standing, and it's not going to be easy for them. Central Florida probably the biggest beneficiary of that circle shift, as they are now inside the center of the circle. Still up as a full squad. They have that 3-1 split, and that 3-1 split, my opinion, is so valuable coming into Phase 5, because even if it's a 2-2 split, but either way it's still very valuable because they are quite close to each other and they're getting so much information on the teams around them.
Ooh. Once again, I mean, look how quick the feet are here of Midwest. They're continuing the rotations. They're actually, I'm really liking, kind of what they're doing right now for Cincinnati. They're kind of wanting to play from this position. They know that there's another team here. They want not only the little bit of rocks and high ground, but the kind of backfill for Hacienda. So if Midwest can do something about Cincinnati, there is a great place for them to play from this. The big issue, though, is that Central Florida's kind of been keeping an eye on this as well. Span Cargo and Nomad Wrath that could try to maybe even keep the pressure on those teams. So it'll be interesting to see as well with NCSU also needing to get themselves in the zone safely. And, once again, that warehouse compound is completely open and for the taking for whatever team is brave enough to investigate, just full send, see, hey, is this worth having? Because, I mean, it's no doubt the strongest compound in the circle right now, but for whatever reason, nobody is there.
No, but maybe they just presume it's already taken. But then again, so many of these teams have been just a little bit slow on their rotations where they're kind of, they're clashing against each other on the edge of the circle rather than being a little bit more aware of this fact, as we do see, side of UC Berkeley punishing now Oblivion and the rest of the side of Ontario as they do try and hold on to the southeastern side of the circle. Another knockdown coming through, a confirmation onto Great X, and it's not looking too good for Ontario.
Oblivion's just going to send it right back down to Minas. Play from that bowl, that position he knows right now is safe, but, you've still got Norwich in that area that's going to continue that rotation up towards Berkeley. But meanwhile, this push that we've been talking about with Midwest that's really been trying to play for dominance, they've managed to clear all but one player of Cincinnati. That's Edge. Edge's actually going to get Gribbles down to 29 HP, but with still plenty of players up, Delta is going to find that flush. Perfect. And although it came at the cost of just a little bit of health, still remaining a 3-man. They are going to have the Hacienda double torn area, and as the circle's closer, we'll get more information on that. But UC Berkeley now really preventing this push coming in from Norwich is going to go ahead and get that knock and flush. Mitchy Boy picking up Webbington from this, but you can hear the onslaught of nades It's going to push Mitchy Boy back, and that circle as well is going to push them back further down. Frodo sent ahead, scout out of position, but you've got Crop GG that's coming up right above him. So this fight, it's kind of split their attention here for Berkeley. Could potentially come back to hurt them if they're not a little bit careful.
Crop GG looking for the headshots on the Magnum. Not going to find it right now, as the revive is going to be connected on. He has to be very, very careful with his shots, because you know the second one of those bullets exits that barrel, his position is way more compromised. Norwich were very slow on their rotation over the last 3 or 4 minutes in the Hasse around the Minas Generalis area. They allowed Ontario to get ahead of them. They allowed Berkeley to kind of stay control on the edge of the circle, and Norwich need to kind of be aware, if they are going to improve and turn things around for them, that they have to be more proactive coming into these phase 4, phase 5 circles.
Oblivion, the ace, is really going to have to count his blessings here and hope that he hasn't been spotted out. As we can see, just looking for a potential point to take down with him. Meanwhile, NCSU did, in fact, crash that warehouse compound, so a couple of teams are starting to get themselves into the zone safely, but Crop GG, spotted out, is going to get taken down by Berkeley as Magnum picks that one back up, and miraculously, Berkeley's able to keep 4-man alive. They do have one player knocked, but it looks like Mitchy right now going for that res. So Norwich rotating back out to the south, half spotted out Oblivion the ace. You can see as well LSU trying to fight out those compounds now for NCSU. And you kind of got, a 2v1 here, Beck and Winlow versus Big Penguin. And there's a lot of potential on which teams can take onto this fight. Additionally, now you see as well, Midwest managed to get themselves into the zone. You've got one for SAU up to the north, and that 2-2 split still working up for Central Florida. And of course, right as you said, SAU taken out, so...
Castle curse, my good friend Clover. And that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. 7 teams left standing, 19 players up. This side of Central Florida, they're really doing a great job of holding on. Spankar goes knocked down, but will get revived up. Will not get revived up, will get confirmed. And Concordia decided to have been consistent on their placing points, have been consistent on their playstyle, have been consistent on the calculated aggression on the northern side as Big Penguin goes down. Louisiana are eliminated, and North Carolina do have a bit of space to now play on the southwestern side of this circle.
Yeah, I mean, Concordia was a little bit quiet for the early mid-game of this, but they put themselves in a good position for the circle, have picked up 2 kills thus far, and now are starting to kind of turn that dial up slowly in the late game that we've seen them. They're waiting for that chance. All right, there's 16 lives. We've made some placement points. We could take a couple of chances here. We have lost a player, but we also need to be a little bit mindful of what's happening out to the south, and so Concordia using this as an opportunity to try to take aim, I think, on that split that UCF has. You've got Big Butt, Judy, and Oogie Boogie in these buildings, and that's the thing that Concordia wants. So Morn's wrapping around a position to try to do something about it. We can see as well Norwich down to just Cakester, man. And he's been spotted out by Mitchy Boy TTV. There's not really anywhere else for Cakester, man, to go. Try to crawl just close enough to that little ledge right in front of him and not be spotted out. But NCSU, Beck, and Winlow full sending it. They want to play from this exact same hill, and that could be really detrimental to Cakester, man. If he gets spotted out, I think a big thing it can help out here is the aggression coming out from Berkeley that might take their attention away just long enough to keep Cakester, man, going unnoticed.
But now you see Midwest are on the western side. They're outside the circle. They're going right into the open field in the open loving arms of the likes of Central Florida.
Just send it.
Concordia, as Norwich do go down. Cakester, man, is not going to have his cake and eat it too. He's going to be going back to the lobby. We have 5 teams left standing, 15 players. That's an average of 3 players per team, as Beck and Winlow have been able to edge closer in towards the circle, with at least Beck making his way in with Winlow close behind him.
Once again, Concordia really doing wonders from this position as they're trying to keep Midwestern from rotating back into the zone. Nomad Wrath continuing that bleed out. And we see it looks like Sneak Attack trying to confirm that kill, not let anybody in Midwestern steal it, as Delta's going to fall back down. So we've got a little bit of third-party trading going on from a lot of these squads, but Morns doing some damage, unfortunately, to Sneak Attack. I think that would have been an accidental underhand nade that bounced right back. And so, Sneak Attack's probably going to be a little bit angry in comms, but the second nade's getting a little bit closer to Gribbles. They're trying to do something about Midwestern. Additionally, now, NC State, Beck, trying from their angle to do something. You see Colsey getting very low. Miraculously, the blue zone doesn't take him out here. Gets to 1 HP, but Mitchy Boy is actually going to land a headshot from all the way uphill, take him down, but stolen from Big Butt Judy's. He's going to get the flush onto that kill. So, again, you get that knock, but you're not necessarily going to get the kill. We're hearing so much shooting coming out from all these squads right now, who are just trying to do what they can to clear out Midwestern, which Midwest somehow still has Gribbles alive.
I don't know how Gribbles has kept himself alive. Absolutely fantastic individual play just to keep the resilient played on. And Berkeley have played these last 2 circles perfectly. The reason why is because they haven't overpeaked. They haven't overextended. They've covered all their grounds. They've kept themselves spread out to the point where they're able to gather their information, but they're also not getting caught out. Yes, have Concordia been a little bit more distracted by the likes of Midwest, by the likes of Central Florida? Yes, but at the end of the day, we know what Concordia will do. And if Concordia are given an inch from the likes of Berkeley, they're going to take a mile, but Berkeley have not given them that inch. And now as we are getting in towards phase 8 and the circle closes down, it's gone back down south. The likes of North Carolina are breathing a little bit more sigh of relief because all the other teams are going to be fighting up against each other.
Yeah, I mean, this positioning that NCSU has right now is really paramount for the zone. They don't really have to do anything, and they've got a good sightline against the other teams. The big issue is going to have to come from Concordia. It needs to wrap on to Berkeley to try to get themselves in the zone safely, but Berkeley read this early, sent Frodo and Magnum ahead, try to take down, Cool Pepper, and get him down very low, but haven't found the flush. So we see Frodo's actually going to just go ahead and aggressively send it forward, see if he can do something about Culpepper, get it down to just 2 players. We'll find the knock. Magnum gets up 1 here, but Sneak Attack and Morns instead try to chance it here for the compounds in UCF. And unfortunately, are going to take on just a little bit of damage as the fighting's coming out left and right. Good nades potentially coming out for Big Bad Judy, but Gribbles actually is going to clean house here. Takes out both members of Concordia. We've got our top 4, but it is traded there. Frodo from up the hill spots him out now. And you see, Berkeley has the high grounds. Mitchy Boy and Shane in a beautiful positioning, but Beck and Winlow cannot be discounted from this spot. They're both very good shots, and all it takes is to get that 1 or 2 knocks, pick off players left and right. They've got a little bit of time here now that we're getting into phase 7. We've got all 3 teams playing the edge here, and that shooting by Mitchy.
Mitchy Boy sending a message to North Carolina saying to them, look, we are not giving you a chance. We are being proactive. The likes of Frodo did just a job onto the side of Concordia just a few minutes ago, and now they're looking to do the same on the North Carolina. Mitchy Boy sends himself forward. He's not over peaking it though because he's on his own right. Making sure that you put that engage on as a pretty much either full squad or a 2-man team is so vital as Frodo. Looking to go in on the side. Is he going to be able to spot it? He's going to find one. Is he going to find a second?
Good knock and good play here for Frodo to pull back and reposition, not overextend himself and run the risk of getting taken down. There's still a 4-man squad here for UC Berkeley, and Frodo is going to get the flush onto Big Butt Judy, but Mitchy Boy had sight on Ogie Bogey, gets the flush, and now realizing what's happened, Berkeley immediately able to backfill this position and focus entirely on NCSU, which is really the first thing that Frodo and Mitchy Boy did. Kind of took turns, see if they could spot out Beck, but Beck and Winlow quick on their feet, trying to kind of keep themselves from getting spotted out. Winlow actually was hoping to wrap around the backside of Berkeley, but scouted out by Magnum. Beck last still standing, but unfortunately just doesn't quite realize where Frodo was coming from until it's too late. Has a motorcycle, is going to full send it, and there we go. A little bit of a delay, but it's actually going to be Magnum and Frodo with those last 2 kills. 11 in total for Cal Esports UC Berkeley. I mean, Berkeley played that angle beautifully.
Honestly, I don't think I've seen such a controlling game in the last 3 or 4 circles from a team in the CBA. so far. It was so beautifully executed. I don't use this word often, but it was near poetic, right? They didn't overpeak, they didn't overextend. When they jumped onto Concordia, they did it as a two-man team. Yeah, did Frodo take a little bit of a risk going on to Central Florida in a 1v2? Yeah, but I think at that point in the game, they kind of knew they had control and that it was just a matter of taking that little bit of a chance. But I also want to say the last 5 teams, the final 5 teams, were so deserving to be in those positions. Right? Central Florida disengaged away from Ontario early on. You had that lovely wraparound by Concordia. You had great proactive early game play by Midwest at the start of the game to wipe out near squad. You know, and then you have Berkeley coming in on the south east side to kind of wrap around the high ground. They were constantly proactive. It was and then of course North Carolina were just doing what they do best and just holding on the southern side. It was really well played. Honestly, probably my favorite game I've casted so far in the CBA. It was brilliant.
Yeah, you know, you talked as well about the work that we saw put in by Midwestern. They walked away from that match, you know, going out in fourth, but with 10 kills. And that's absolutely huge. And it's what we've really seen from them each and every one of these games. They may not make it to the top 2, top 3 on terms of fights, but they're always coming out with those double-digit kills. And that's been really huge to help them grow on the leaderboard today. And as well, you know, Central Florida staying up late through that game. Each player picked up at least 1 kill from that match. So really exciting to see. But with that, we've got one more match to go through tonight as we end out our meme maps on air and Gel. So guys, don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a moment with some more collegiate PUBG. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I'm Clover. This is Imperium, and we are here to cast Collegiate League Season 7, Week 2, as brought to you guys by a whole lot of sponsors. I'm going to try to get in through really quickly so we can get straight to the plane. We're brought to you by the North American Collegiate League, GTIF Capital, Just Hoops, and Sector 6 Apparel. NACL is providing a $1,000 prize pool this season for the chance for some top 8 teams to do some fun stuff next season. But with that, guys, we're going to go ahead and go right into the path because this is an exciting flight path. The Imperium, I think you and I kind of hope to maybe potentially throw a cast.
We both saw it and instantly you were like, oh, milli circle.
That would be the cherry on the cake of getting to cast with you, is getting to cast a milli circle. I mean, it is the true chaos that a battle royale brings when we get a circle like that with just limiting crossing paths. We've been talking about rotating all day, and teams that have really struggled with their ability to rotate and transition. And, you know, already Rochester not taking any chances, going straight for that milli drop that we've seen them already kind of play from so far today.
Yeah, you're dead right in terms of kind of, we talked about the rotations today, and I do think a military circle is one of the trickiest yet also easiest at times way to rotate into the circle. Like, so many teams across so many, you know, events and tournaments I've seen across so many tiers genuinely do fail to kind of get a military island circle wrong. So, you know, I'm hoping that if it comes a cropping that we do see more teams kind of dealing with it pretty nicely. But I'll tell you what, Alabama, they're going to be put under a lot of pressure because sneak attack and the Concordia side are instantly looking to get those shotgun blasts off.
I mean, sneak attack was quick to pick up an SMG and a shotgun. He's going to go ahead and get one down there onto Alabama. SAU, it was the potential to perhaps try to get in on this fight, is actually going to take the vehicle, pull back away. We can see sneak attack with the ump, gets a knock and flush onto Ginger Jesus. So 1 confirmed kill now for Bama, and 3 still up, trying to recover for this. You can see Kaozu bleeding out slowly, and, you know, Sneak knows, hey, you've got a full squad, 1 small building, there's not going to be enough weapons to go around. I'm going to go ahead and take full advantage of this, do as much damage as I can for this. You can actually see it is a melee right in there, and oh, it's going to get a second one. Can he get the flush, all with an ump and a shotgun? The last player hiding in the bathroom. Look, he had 2 Scar Ls in the bedroom, just waiting to be used.
Yeah, and here's the thing, he only had 7 bullets left on that ump, so getting that scar was a blessing in disguise, and now it's Praetor Demon just in the bathroom, all on his lonesome, hoping he doesn't get spotted. And it's something that I've kind of observed. When a player is left on their own and they're hiding in house, they always resort to the bathroom. Always. I don't know why, but they always end up going to the bathroom.
I mean, have you been playing any Phasmophobia lately? If you go to the bathroom, the bad guys can't get you, right? They can't find you in the hunt. But oh, some Superman punches. He tried to do something with it, but Praetor Demon gets taken out, and Alabama gets to go to bed early tonight, I guess, as they unfortunately get hunted down early on. But listen, we had 3 teams drop in this area, and Concordia, you know, they've got another team that they need to focus on, and that is St. Ambrose. As we see, Laud the Chud gets taken out there by Morns. Not quite sure what he was doing out in the open, but all that's left for SAU is now just King Nando.
And here's the thing, I kind of feel sorry for St. Ambrose, and
oh, it's not going to be Millie.
But yeah, it's not going to be Millie. But well, actually, no, it's still good. I feel sorry for them. The reason why is because
oh, wait a second.
Wait, yeah.
What's going on here? It looks like we had 2 AFK droppers come alive at the same moment. HD Beast does actually have a gun. We can see it there secondary, but he's not taking shots with it yet. He's just having a little bit of fun with Shabs, but now I think he's realized, oh, by the way, I have a Scar L and plenty of bullets, but, you know, maybe just wants to give Shabs a little bit of a head start, a chance to do something, to try to see if they're speaking to each other here.
To all, they're like, hey, how you doing? Hey, you doing okay, mate? You doing okay? I'm going to give you a 10-second head start and go.
You know, sometimes in NA we refer to this as Game 6 scrims, where teams have a little bit of fun with the last match, or things get a little bit silly, especially after a long day. And I think the silliness is coming out in full force right now, but I'm really, I'm really digging this camaraderie with Beast. I mean, there's no real threat here, right? Shab's kind of off on his own. So the rest of UBC, they're far, far away.
Oh, yeah.
They're out near Farm. They're out south of Pachinki. I think they've already written him off for dead, and Beast is just having a little bit of fun with it. The rest of his team's in Pachinki as well. So the big thing they just need to be a little bit careful for is Frodo from Berkeley's kind of in this area. So as they continue onward towards the zone, this joke could potentially come back to hurt Beast just a little.
I genuinely have to give a level of respect to those two players because we rarely see that kind of situation in any kind of competitive PUBG, but I think there's a certain level of respect that comes out that I think it has to be highlighted, and it's great to see because at the end of the day, it is kind of a little bit of fun, and it's important that they kind of have a laugh with each other and that they are enjoying the PUBG experience at the CBA, and that kind of unique situation comes up. I think it's great that we're seeing it on broadcast.
Now, as we see as well, FSU and a little bit of a hotspot with Southeastern, who's been playing very aggressively, looking for those kills, but so far it's come at a cost right now. 2 players have been downed and or outed as Sanic right now bleeding out. We can see Beams. He's going to go ahead and spot out one player, Fear to Fork, looking for the chance to take some shots on us, but needs to get himself just a little bit closer of an angle. He just extended himself a little bit too far for the rest of the squad to do much of anything with this, as we see the Rez trying to come out, but Migster is going to be very quick on this M4 out, looking for the knock. He's going to go ahead and take down Sinek before he has any time to recover, but the return fire is going to push Migster right back down to 15 HP. And we see that recovery trying to come out here from Pluis. Some throwables back out, keep the pressure onto Migster. That's going to give Beams a little bit more time to try and close this gap and lend a hand to teammates, but Pluis is starting to run out of options. Fear to Fork might have line of sight on this. We see take shots towards the smoke here.
Oh, nice disengagement potential coming out from the side of Pluis. Will he be able to survive? He will not, and that's going to leave Beams on his own. And that does kind of beg the question, Clover. Why did Beams flank around so far away from the rest of the side? They'd already lost a player. You don't really flank around an opposing team if you're down to 3 players, unless you are absolutely confident you're able to make something of that. But like we already pointed out, Beams was just so far away that he wasn't really able to do anything. Now he's left on his own, surrounded by the side of Flower Zone as he takes those shots on towards Fear the Fork. Does not connect all, and Fear the Fork does disengage away from behind the tree, and Beams might get spot out and eliminated. And down he goes. Down goes Southeastern.
You know, heartbreaking end to the evening for Southeastern, who had a fantastic night so far. But as you said, right, Beams was not really in a position to help out. Kind of went with a really wide rotation, and it kind of costed them here. And so, speaking of Costa, had a little bit of rotation for Central Florida, coming too close to Ontario here. Ontario's going to pick up 3 kills, and that's going to push Oogie Boogie just up to the north, back onto the compound. So this blue is closing in. Almost every team is in. HD Beast actually allowed Shabs to get a vehicle and rejoin his teammate. We can see that blue vehicle driving right there. That was our solo AFK at the very beginning that was running alongside. So a wholesome ending there for LSU. But, you know, the question kind of begs to happen now. What are we going to start to see from these squads? You know, is all of the silliness out of the way so far for this final match of the evening, or is it just going to get more and more crazy from here?
I really like the 2-2 split from Cincinnati. They haven't committed to Potato Hill, which I think is very valuable and important, because when you hold on to Potato Hill, you really have to know what you're doing. You really have to be controlling, whereas holding on to the 2 compounds to the south of Potato Hill, it still gives you the same form of control, but with much less of a risk, at much less of a cost. Yeah, okay, you can see that they're all under pressure in terms of health, but at the end of the day, part of the reason why they are surviving is because they have those compounds in their sightlines. But pops up. It goes over to the west. NC State are looking to fire up. They're trying to catch out Gribbs and the rest of the Midwest side, as the Midwest are just doing what they can to kind of hold on outside the circle.
You know, for playing as a three-man squad all day, Midwest has really been able to put down quite a bit. And, you know, once again, we're seeing them set up in a really nice angle all along this compound, having Delta out to the north, Gribbles and Colsey to the south and east. The big issue for Delta, they need to be a little bit careful, is Regimes and Arctic Wolf are rotating around the lake, taking a wide angle, trying to see if they can actually spot out Delta from behind. So if they take them down here, that could be huge, but Regimes just a 2x on that Mini 14 is going to make it just a little bit hard, but it's not going to stop the shots coming out. Arctic Wolf is going to spot him out here, taking shots towards the vehicle, try to disable that. Now Delta realizing, hey, I've got my attention split just a bit. I can't really do much for the compound, but that's not going to matter. Gribbles is going to take this as a good opportunity, try to get close range here onto NCSU's got a good angle. Oh, look at that Molotov. Oh, let's go. Let's go, Gribbles. Have some fun with this.
What's important for Gribbles as well is that Colsey looks to kind of get a little bit closer to Gribbles and provides a bit more of a support line, a little bit more of a pressure point onto the side of North Carolina as they just try and suppress themselves on towards the garage area, using the dip of the hill towards getting those shots to peek up onto Beck. Beck is going into return fire. Colsey goes back down to dip. Is Gribbles going to be able to get a little bit of a shot? No, he won't. He's going to get spot out, and that's going to be another member down for Midwest, putting them under pressure.
Regimes really did a number here to push into that sniper tower, call out some additional information for Beck and Winlow to work off of, and also kind of keep Delta busy enough that just puts them down to only having to worry about Colsey, potentially turning it back into a 2v1, because Colsey still with the barrel at hand is going to do a bit of damage here into Beck. Hasn't found the knocker flush just yet, but potential here for Midwest to try and regroup. The big issue now is what to do with Arctic Wolf and Regimes out the north. Arctic Wolf taking a little bit of damage into the blue. Regimes has been knocked, and we are in phase 2. So, you know, being knocked in the blue this early on is not necessarily a death sentence, but with the zone being a little bit off to the south, these teams do need to be a little bit mindful of that damage that they're taking, because it could become one in the future if they don't hurry this up.
The question is, like, who's really winning from that trade? In my opinion, none of those teams are winning, but now as we center up in towards the circle, Ontario are getting a lot closer to the church side of Pachinki, but they do have the side of Louisiana State in their crossfire, along with a potential third party from UC Berkeley in that compound just outside Pachinki terrain, and that's a great compound to hold on to. Yes, it's a little bit harder to disengage from coming into phase 4, phase 5 if you have to move out, but for now, for phase 2 coming into phase 3, it's a real good spot to hold on to.
You know, and potentially as well, right now the circle's so centered up on Pachinki, but we're only into phase 2, so there's a lot of opportunities for teams, he said, kind of playing the edge of that zone to see if the circle will potentially shift in or in kind of away. We haven't really had, at least I haven't seen a Pachinki end zone finish in quite some time, but as the circle is going to pop, it is going to go center itself just north of Pachinki. In fact, Ontario in a really great position for that. Package compound is completely out in the open. We see up to the north, and now both of those teams I think are going to potentially try and stop this fight. Of course, I say stop. Regimes and Arctic Wolf scouting ahead for a spot in the zone safely, but Beck and Winlow, unfortunately, are kind of locked in position until they can escape the clutches of Delta. Right now, I see Throwables coming out, switching back out to the Groza for that close range combat. Shots getting ready. We see he's falling down to 37 HP, so those boosters aren't able to keep up with the damage that's coming out now for phase 7. And those throwables, those flashbangs are doing wonders here to keep him at bay.
Gonna have to start getting some bandages off, otherwise his health is just gonna be too low to do anything about it. Takes those pre-fire shots off, his position has been compromised, but now the bandages are gonna have to start out. Colsey, who has the most health between these two players from Midwest, has to be a distraction point, has to take points of pressure away from his Delta teammate to create that space.
Oh! Delta with the nade is going to get a double knock here, pushing in quickly for the flush. I was just thinking to myself, Colsey, you've got throwables. Use that utility to do something. But Delta answered the call here, and now Midwestern can immediately pick themselves up, scramble back into the zone. But remember, NCSU did send 2 ahead, and they are there safely if they've set up into South Rozok. But Cincinnati, winning out Potato Hill, continue to put pressure on the rest of the teams that were trying to rotate in and around this area. And that's now you've got this clustering of all these teams to the south here.
And here's the thing, right? You know, when you're on the north, that's all well and good because there's less teams around you, but it gets to a point where you only get so much information. Once you get to the point of where Ontario are, you don't get any information on where the teams are down the southern side of this area. You might get a little bit of information on the Potato Hill slash Runes train where we do see the side of UC Berkeley. But other than that, you are kind of going into that next phase blind on the north side of the circle. But with all those teams closer down south, they're going to be putting so much more pressure on each other.
Oh, and talking about pressure. Ooh, we're getting a seat swap. Actually, we are. Morns taking down King Nando in a nasty display there. Concordia, let's go.
They're just not letting up. And now Norwich is going to be the next victim for Concordia. As Concordia have to push their way into the circle, Norwich are looking to possibly kind of gatekeep, but it's just two players left up, Bloody Motions and Cake Stern. Then if you look at the side of UBC might give a little bit of space for Norwich because Concordia might be focused a bit too more heavily on themselves as Cake Stern man with that Car 98, with that Moisten is able to find a knockdown on the few.
And Circle once again taking another hard shift, this time going north of Pachinki. So all these teams that we've been watching out have to finish out their fight and start worrying about getting the zone. Cincinnati is going to leave Potato Hill.
In onto the compound that was held onto by North Carolina. Either side of the road, these two teams fight as Cincinnati are going to have the side of Concordia wrapping around them with sneak attack, sneaking his way through while Delta Midwest gets a nice double knock onto Mitchy Boy and Magnum.
Absolute denial there from Midwest. Berkeley sent two ahead. They wanted that high ground position, as you said, to get some headshots on Headshots Hill coming out of Rozhok, playing the Rozhok Hill. And unfortunately, Midwestern was perfectly sitting there waiting for him. We know how absolutely deadly Delta can be at that range. So picking up quite a few kills for them, even as a two-man right now. Midwestern is definitely not a team that you want to fret with. But out here in package compound, see Rochester Institute of Technology taking shots at North Carolina, a fight across the streets, but Hershey and Pseudo Void sent ahead, trying to put the pressure on NCSU and keep these compounds claimed for themselves so they can have this area as a four-man would be absolutely huge and strong, especially with 8 other teams fighting at their heels. And speaking of fighting at their heels, nice shot there from Cincinnati.
Yeah, definitely kind of pushing back Concordia, creating that little bit of space because, again, Cincinnati, they're not exactly firmly inside the circle. They have to move down the hill towards those compounds that held onto by Rochester and North Carolina, respectfully. I really also love the position from Florizona coming in from the Pachinki area on the high ground, overlooking the likes of Ontario and the other teams in towards the compounds outside of school. So we'll have to wait and see if they can do anything about that. Sneak attack continues to be sneaky and gets another kill on the side. As NC State, they get eliminated by pressurizing Rochester.
Hey, we really got to give credit to Iceman and Hershey, who did not let up from that compound, got the clear onto this. So you can see Delta actually did kind of send it up ahead, extending themselves, trying to third-party something out of this fight. But now it's got to be just a little bit careful, overextending from that hilltop, not only taking damage from Rochester Institute, but from Ontario, who's got sight on him as well. SA Kid's been taking a couple shots in this area, but the circle's going to center right back up on top of them. And so that means that the rest of these teams coming out of Pachinki are going to have to fight for that edge of zone. Florizona's got it right now, but you've got Big Penguin and Garden kind of wrapping around Mixter and Zez Games. I don't even think you even see them just yet.
Man, this is absolutely crazy. Remaining 18. Comes in from behind. Boom! You just got spotted out, my friends. And Louisiana continue the pressure on towards the side of Florizona.
Oh, man. Louisiana, I thought for sure Florida had to have heard them. In fact, I think Garden kind of took a second look at him like, oh, hey, there's somebody. Wait, there's somebody here. And you just see immediately Garden and Big Penguin melt into them, take them down, pick up the flushes as quickly as possible. Now, Florida is going to say, you know what? Maybe let's not mess with this right now. Fear to Fork picking one up, sending forward ahead, picking up Mellow as well. And they're going to try to get a little bit closer to center compound. The issue, of course, is that package, as we saw, taken out by Rochester Institute. Now as they get a little bit close to some of these squads, they're taking fire left and right, and these dips might be their only safety, but you've got to fight Midwestern for this, and we've already seen what they can do when you let them get close enough to you.
And it feels bad, man, for the side of Arizona, because that was such a reactive push, a reactive reposition rather than a proactive reposition. If they were going to make that, why didn't they do that earlier on? But because they stayed down south, you got to realize that there could easily have been a team hiding in Pachinki. You got to cover all your areas, and they got punished for it. Down goes Florizona. 17 left, 17 players.
You really can't give them any space there with Midwestern, as they're going to pick up quite a few kills for themselves. And once again, this not necessarily compound curse, but the safety along the edge curse that Berkeley has kind of bestowed upon themselves. Frodo and Shane aren't really in a position to do much right now, as they're taking on a little bit of pressure from Midwestern. Additionally, now Concordia coming down from the hilltop, rotating to the south, and this could take them right at the doorsteps of LSU, but we're waiting for that circle reposition, see where it pops, and it's going to center itself once again on Rochester's compound. So really great news for them, as they've managed to stay up as a three-man, only 3 kills, but potentially this could start to concentrate more teams in this area and give them something to work from, but they need to be a little bit careful not to be too locked in to this compound, as well as you see Fagoholic trying to take shots at the car 98. It's going to land a little bit of damage, but it's traded out. The Crop is going to push him back, so he's going to have to focus on healing. And now look at this. Concordia starting to send ahead. Sneak attack, dipping his toes on the edge of zone, looking to see where to go safely, as Flashy is going to come back to join him, but LSU playing the sneaky game, coming in the back side of this.
Midwest, though. Midwest, can we just talk about Midwest? How good have they been in this game, right? Down to 2 players. They only started as 3. Causey and Delta are playing as if they're a full squad. Cincinnati are eliminated down on the south side. They just couldn't do much, and that was off the back of Rochester, most notably Crop really being proactive on his position and not taken for granted being inside the compound, inside the circle, knowing that you cannot let teams get too close to you. As Midwest going to be pushing on in, you're going to see a bit of a push, but Frodo's going to get down.
Oh, it's an unfortunate place to be. Sneak attack picks that one up very quickly now, as you can see the rest of Ontario scrambling, do something with this. And sneak attack looking, I think, perhaps to play the attic here, or to see the roof, but there's so many angles to drop back down and do something from this. The big issue, of course, is going to be the fact that, Rochester could potentially have line of sight onto this. So they need to pick this up just a little bit quickly. And SA Kid actually is trying to find an angle from that 2-story as well. So now we kind of get to our top 5 teams. Is going to slow down just a little bit. You've got one solo in Big Penguin. The 2-man here of Concordia trying to clear something out with Ontario. More shots out with sneak attack. Just a little bit of minor damage from this. But, SA dude up the stairs is actually going to get Flashy down.
Yeah, but of course he should be able to make his way up the stairs. The revive should be well executed by Sneak Attack, but as he gets taken down to 28 health, is that too little too late? Are we going to see the end of Concordia? Let's make no mistakes about it, though. They've done a fantastic job getting 15 kills up until this point. As he holds onto a little bit of a choke point up the stairs. He needs to be very careful. Have all his sidelines coming through. He gets a nice knockdown
It's
onto Kid.
A good trade out here. Oblivion the ace actually getting the flush onto Flash, and he's got plenty of throwables, but opted not to use them. So Sneak Attack going right back downstairs, and you see all the way to the ground level. So tries to spot the next one, gets him on the vault, picks up the flush quickly, wastes absolutely no time to take down SA. Dude has the angle to get SA Kid, gets the flush. There's one player left for Oblivion, but you can hear now the bullets coming out from Rochester Institute, Iceman, PUBG, and Hershey. Turning to look at what's going on just on the edge of zone. Oblivion the ace somehow is still alive through this as well, but Sneak Attack, I mean, you can't let him stay alive. Oblivion, he had 3 grenades that he could have done something for this fight and opted not to use them, Imperium.
How did Ontario let Sneak Attack get away with that? It was definitely a mistake that came up from Ontario, but Sneak Attack played them like a fiddle. Time's ticking down. 5 seconds to close out. That's going to be the end of Ontario. Sneak Attack is going to be last man standing for Concordia as we are down to 3 teams.
Sneak Attack with 9 kills so far this match for a total of 40 so far this season. He's an absolute insane player. Top right now in terms of kills for this lobby, and you can see absolutely why. Even when the numbers are stacked against him, he finds a way to make it work. But you can see all the way across range, Midwestern, another team that has been very deadly tonight and still finding ways to make it work as well. So with 3 squads still standing, Rochester down to a 3-man. They've got 3 other players to worry about, a solo and 2 duos, all 3 of whom are very deadly, Imperium.
Oh, no way. They've allowed Sneak Attack to get in there. And no, Iceman has seen that Sneak Attack is there. He heard the footsteps. But now Sneak Attack has got to try and make something of this. No, he does not. Hershey instantly shuts down Sneak Attack. We're down to 2 teams. It's a clean 3v2.
It is huge for Rochester. They can really relax and turn their focus entirely onto Midwestern. Delta and Colsey, the last 2 players still upstanding. Pushed right now along the edge as they try to play the ridge line here. There's not an easy rapid rotation to get them into the package compound. You can see Hershey is actually going to go ahead and full send it out of the compound, try to wrap around, get an angle onto Delta. If they can find at least 1 knock on Midwestern, that will be a lot right around in terms of comfort level. And there you have it. The knock comes out. Delta falls down. All that's left is Colsey's got a nade out. No helmet, down to 14 HP. Rochester spots him out in the end as they take the victory now with 9 kills. You know what, Imperium? I was so worried about Rochester. I was worried the compound curse was going to be something that came true for them as they seem to have the circle every phase that game. But lo and behold, they were able to hold true, keep 3 men up in the ends, and get the chicken dinner. So really exciting to see.
Yeah, of course. There's always that kind of whole thing of like the circle staying in your favor, but there's this age-old saying, right? You've heard it, I've heard it, you said it, I said it. There's no point in having a good position inside the circle if you're not able to make use of it, right? And Rochester made use of their position inside the circle so effectively, right? You had Crop in kind of phase 4, phase 5, putting pressure on the Cincinnati. I think getting the full squad wipe in the end for his side. They were constantly moving about. Even at the very end, right? Simple thing like at the very end, they didn't hold down on the edge of that compound. They were at the, like on the southern edge. They were on the northern edge. They were in the center of the circle. They were not resting on their laurels. Yeah, having that 1-1 split, was there a little bit of a risk that they could be picked off? Kind of, but because they were so far forward in the circle, because they didn't give Midwest any kind of breathing space, they weren't going to get picked off, and they close out that game really effectively. And it was just really well played by Rochester indeed. But definitely we have to talk about Sneak Attack and the Concordia side. Last game of today's games, and they get 15 kills with Sneak Attack getting 9 alone. Talk about kind of cementing Concordia's spot at the top of the standings going into next week's games.
Yeah, I mean, they actually, I think, got 18 kills for this match. Flashy had 3, Morns 5, Cool Pepper 1, and Sneak Attack 9. Additionally, I want to shout out Midwestern because Delta came out of that with 8 kills. So all 8 kills for Midwestern, straight to Delta for that match. All the work that was put in that early fight, against gosh, I don't even remember who it was, because they've been fighting so many people. I think 4 different teams full sent it into Midwestern. Unfortunately, came to pay the price. That Groza really working its way in wonders. So, a lot of really good things that we saw from teams, and a couple of heartbreaking things as well. Southeastern went out very early this match, and that was a team that we were looking to try and climb just a bit on the leaderboards.
Definitely, and the team that probably lost the most opportunity in my eyes was definitely Berkeley. You know, as I kind of talked about, and even you called it, to be fair, you did genuinely call it about how they've maybe struggled at times, and I thought they were gonna kind of use their fantastic position on the western side of the circle by the headshot hills, because they knew they'd come in from the west. They had nobody around them, but then they decided to go for a 2-2 split somewhat blindly and got called out by Midwest. And then from there they just had no kind of confidence to scene, that where they then ended up getting picked off completely. So I think Berkeley, they did kind of miss out.
All right, guys. So we're waiting on the last results for the leaderboard to update, so we can kind of get an overhead view on where all of our teams stand after today's 4 matches. Before going into this game, Concordia starting to lose their lead just a little bit. I think that's safe to say after today, Imperium, that they definitely have comfortably held it, but the teams that have started to close the gap, jump the leaderboard just a little bit. I mean, Midwest College started out today in the mid-range on the leaderboard, went into this last match in 6th place after being in 7th for much of the day. I'm feeling pretty confident that they will take a little bit of a leap. The problem is that the teams that they have been behind so far on the leaderboard, Rochester Institute, who just got a chicken dinner and quite a few kills themselves. Berkeley, who's been very proactive today. Southeastern did go out early, but they've got a sizable gap. And then, of course, NC State University and Concordia. So I'd like to see the potential growth for Midwestern, especially if they can get their 4th player back on that roster, keep themselves as a format, and I think really be able to do more in the late game instead of just playing with a fractioned team, as well as, some other teams that have really been taking some good chances on some of those aggressions and those plays. I'm really liking what I'm seeing out of Florida State University. Just need to get a little more control on those mid-game rotations. That's where we're seeing you guys struggle just a little bit in terms of at least the games today.
Yeah, and it is as a little bit to be expected when you have teams that are kind of so close towards the middle of the pack / up top. They're somewhat tripping over each other, and they're not just tripping over each other in terms of, like, getting good results and overtaking each other and all that jazz, or getting matching results, but there is that kind of, again, and I mentioned that little bit lack of consistency, where you have a great game 1 or you have a great game 2, and you kind of instantly fall on game 3. That inconsistency, not only is it going to affect your overall position and standings, but it also does play on your mind a bit, right? It affects your team's confidence, where you kind of go from one good game where you're like, yep, riding high, we know what we can do, and the next game you fall short at 16th place, and then you're left scratching your head even more, going, what went wrong? And when you're frustrated at that, it's harder to find the answer. When it's harder to find the answer, it's harder to solve the answer and move on from it, and then, of course, recover. So it is important that the teams kind of take a step back and look at how they've performed in those games, and go and identify the things that are stopping them from getting a few more consistent results on board.
Yeah, I mean, the best thing that you can do when you're a player is to always go back and watch your VODs, not only your own internal replays, but the VODs that we have here, so that you can kind of see what are other teams doing in rotations, what is it that we're doing wrong, and what can we really do to improve. So that's something, if you guys are doing, I mean, use these as opportunities to learn, use these to grow, because the, definition of crazy is to do the same thing and expect different results. But with that said, guys, we do finally have the updated CGS. Imperium, you've got it refreshed. Are you ready for this? Close between quite a few teams right now who are trying to play for those outside first spots. Obviously, Concordia still vastly in the lead right now with 171 points. North Carolina State University 116. Southeastern Collegiate falling back down to 3rd, but just barely with 111. Look at this. Berkeley in 4th, Rochester 5th, Midwestern still in 6th, but they've got themselves a little bit closer here. So I'm confident. I'm confident that there's still potential shuffle and change between quite a few of these teams. But man, Concordia.
Like, they came into today's games with a 41-point lead, and they've increased that to 55. And it wasn't even, like, so to speak, one of their best days, right? You know, we did see them kind of falter, flounder a little bit, maybe being a bit too passive on some of their rotations. But then again, trying different rotations, trying different kind of play styles is something they can afford to do because of the lead they came into today's games. But they managed to increase it. It's a little bit mind blowing in some way, 110%. But like you mentioned, I really love the fact that second place down to, I would even say 10th within reason, is still open for huge shifts. Yeah, kind of Louisiana, you know, Louisiana, who are on 50 points, do have a lot more work to do. But if they can increase their average points per game, if they can have that kind of maybe big pop-off game as well, you know, you give them a 20-point game, that's going to instantly put them into 6th, 7th. You know what I mean? So that's how close it can be. So really, I love the fact that from second place downwards, it's so close between these teams.
Yeah, well, guys, with that close, obviously, we've got more weeks ahead for these teams to play. So make sure that you tune in. We'll be back next Monday, again at 9 p.m. Eastern Time here on twitch.tv/collegiate PUBG. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Collegiate PUBG to keep up with information in terms of who's playing, who's casting, and what's going on with our season. We also want to give another shout out to the North American Collegiate League for sponsoring this event and putting up the $1,000 prize pool this season, as well as GTIF Capital, Just Hoops, and Sector 6 Apparel for also sponsoring this season. So, Imperium, any closing remarks as we end out the day?
Yeah, just thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. And thank you for being with me, Clover. It's a pleasure.
It has been an absolute pleasure casting with you. I had so much fun tonight. And guys, it's been so wonderful to be back here on CBA. I hope to cast again with you guys again soon, and we'll see how the games kind of fare out for the rest of the season. But until then, I'm Clover. He's Imperium. This is CBA. You guys keep on playing more PUBG.
constellation.